Hello, hello, everyone. Hello. We are finally live at the Stress Management Summit Africa. Wow, 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 wow. I want to welcome you all. I welcome you all to this Stress Management Summit Africa. We've been waiting for these very moments. We've been waiting, and here we are finally to learn from the array of professional speakers across Africa. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let me see you in the comment section. Are you ready? Are you ready? So, without delay, we'll be starting with the first speaker who is already here. She's already here with us, Dr. Vivian Okoye. She's an optometrist, a child psychologist. She's many things. She's the host of the Parent Summit Africa. If you've attended any of her sessions before, you would know that this is someone that you should pay to listen to. But she's here with us right now. I want you to avail yourself this opportunity to learn from the best when it comes to parenting. So, in the next few minutes or seconds, you're going to be learning from Dr. Vivian. Let me put up her topic. With all that is going on in the world right now, you know that parenting is not a joke. If you don't have knowledge, you can't parent. As in, it's not by abracadabra. Okay, so let me see you guys in the comment section. Are you ready? Are you ready? I am so ready and pumped for this session, for the Stress Management Summit proper. So, we are going to be ushering in Dr. Vivian Okoye to start her session immediately. You're very much welcome, Dr. Vivian. I can't hear you. Not yet. Am I the only one? Can you guys hear her? No, I can't hear you. Okay. She said let her leave and come back. Okay, so Dr. Vivian is already here. I couldn't hear her. I don't know if you guys could hear her. So she left and she's joining back in. Did you hear her when she came online? Let me know. Yes, 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 yes. I see you all. I see you all. We are ready. We are ready. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you
perfect.
hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And I must say that this conversation is really a timely one.
Yeah.
Because of everything that is going on in the world, there are a lot of stressors out there, and I like that the conversation you gave me is how parents can help their children recognize and handle stress, because there's a general notion that children do not have anything to stress about, right? So there's this idea that it's only adults that have things to stress about, that
Yeah.
have things that stress them, without realizing that children also go through their own stresses, even though we might look at those situations that stress them and think, oh, it's nothing. But to a child, it's actually something, and something very big, and something worthy of them stressing.
Absolutely.
So I congratulate you and your team for putting
Thank
this
you.
together, and I feel very honored to be part of the speakers and to be having this conversation. And I'm excited for everyone who registered and who is joining the conversation, because I know it's going to be something that is going to be transformational. Because getting the
Yeah.
tools that we all need tools to handle
Mhm.
stress, because stress is part of life, right? But what matters is how you're able to handle and navigate through stressful situations.
That's
Yeah.
right. So let me
So,
take the back seat now. The stage is yours.
all right, guys. So my name is Dr. Vivian Okoye. And I'm an optometrist by profession. I'm a certified child psychologist, and I like to call myself the conscious parent. And basically, what I do is to help parents to heal their own childhood trauma, so that they can show up to the world and show up to the parenting relationship that they are building with their kids in a way that is empowering, in a way that guarantees that you're raising wholesome, trauma free, and confident humans, right? So, the conversation we're having today is about how can you help your child recognize stress, and how can you teach them to handle stress? And before we delve right into the conversation, I'd like us to talk a little bit about what stress is as it relates to this topic, right? I know that Dr. Ezine and all the stress experts have their own more elaborate, definitions of stress and all of that. But for the purpose of this particular conversation that we are having, I'd like to say that stress is simply anything that makes a child frustrated, or even a person makes the person frustrated, makes the person angry, and makes the person anxious, right, or nervous, right? So that is stress. And the way we are created as human beings, every human being, doesn't matter if you are an adult or if you are a child, we have been created with a stress response system. And like I said earlier, stress is normal part of life, but stress becomes a problem when we don't know how to recognize the situations that stress us, and when we don't know how to handle or navigate through stressful situations, or when we're exposed to repeated stress. Do you understand? So some of us find ourselves in stressful situations that are repeated to the extent that it becomes toxic stress. And it's that same way for children as well. Once stress becomes too repeated and it becomes toxic, it can be detrimental to your well-being, to your health, and to a lot of things. And for children, it is so important that we teach them, because they don't have the logic to actually understand that this is stress, and to sieve informations or to block out informations that stress them. Remember that things that stress you may not just be things that happen to you. It can be how you think about things, how you perceive things, how you interpret things, right? And children interpret situations. So for instance, when I say interpret things, so you can correct a child in a harsh way now, and the child interprets it as my mom is angry at me, right? And that can put that child in a sad mood, or that can make that child become nervous around you. And if that becomes a repeated experience for that child, or a constant experience for that child, it can be a stressful being around you. As in, if you're constantly being harsh towards them, being around you can become a stressful situation for them, because they don't know, they're now walking on eggshells around you. They don't know what to expect. They don't know how you're going to flip the lead in the next minute, and how you're going to shout at them, and how you're going to call them names and stuff like that. So um so that's about stress. So we know what stress is. There are three key words: anything that makes you frustrated, angry, or sad, anything that makes you nervous, especially for children, right? And we now know that stress is a normal part of life. But then, if stress is constantly happening over and over and over again, it can be, stressful for the child. And for a child who is developing, the error in, or the consequence of allowing stress to be repeated and repeated without teaching them coping mechanisms, without teaching them how to handle it, is that if if the stress response system of their body, their nervous system, and their brain is constantly activated, they start to, if it is overstimulated, they become hyper vigilant, right? So if somebody is, there's something I shared about trauma, and I said people who experience stressful situations, who their predominant childhood experiences were very stressful, they are very hyper vigilant because they were exposed to stress constantly. So they're always on the guard, they're always anxious. So their nervous system is hyper stimulated. So they grow up with that. Anything that happens in your childhood grows with you in adulthood, into adulthood, if you don't deal with it. And when they grow into adulthood with that, they just become hyper vigilant, and they become people who are looking for, because their nervous system have been trained to deal with stress, or to like stress, or to be used to stress. Even when things are not happening, their nervous system is looking for a stressful situation. Let me show you a typical example how this can happen. Have you met some people that just, if things are peaceful, they don't like it? right? They want to create a scenario either in their thoughts, either in their imaginations, that want to make them be on the edge, right? That's an example of somebody whose nervous system is used to, being, it's like an addiction. It's like an addiction. So you see this kind of people creating scenarios where, that will suit, that system, that their nervous system that is used to being hyper vigilant, and you don't want your child to be in that position. For some of us who are workaholics, that could be it for us, because we're just used to being in, our nervous system is just used to being in that zone of under pressure, under stress, being hypervigilant, being on the move. It's hard for us to rest. These are learned behaviors because of the experiences that we ourselves were exposed to in our childhood. So it's important that a childhood, everybody's childhood is as peaceful as possible, with just normal stresses of life, and also with the skills to understand, recognize this stress, and to navigate through those stress. And I think I've digressed so much, right? Are we still together? I would like to hear in the chat if we're together before I move on, right? If we're together, let me, if I'm making sense to you so far, let me hear in the comments, and then we'll move on. So if I get a few comments, we'll move on, and I move on to the conversation. Are we together? Mabel Jonah says yes. Mabel Jonah on YouTube says yes. Okay. All right. So when we look at stress now, what are the things that could cause stress for children? What are some of the things that can cause stress for children, right? You know how you look at a child and you say, oh, what's their own? They just sleep, they wake up, they eat, everything is provided for them, there's nothing for them to worry about. But that's not the point. It's not, things that cause stress for people are not necessarily by the event in itself. Is about how the person sees the event, how the person interprets the event, and how the person thinks about the event. Most of the stresses that we face come from how we think about what is happening, not necessarily about what is happening to us, right? So for a child, for an adult, for instance, you want to go out, you have an important meeting to go out to, and you're looking for your car key. That can be a stressful situation for an adult. For a child wants to go to a cousin's house, and there's a favorite toy they want to show their cousin, and they cannot find that favorite toy in that moment. It's a stressful situation for the child. A child is trying to solve mathematics, and they're trying to get the answer to the question, and they cannot get the answer to the question. Is a stressful situation for that child, right? So there are different things, everyday things that happen to children that are stressful for them. This is also where it's important that if you're a parent, or if you're somebody who has a child in your life, don't just dismiss things, right? Talk about things, be open to hearing their perspective about those things, and be open to hearing about how they feel, how they perceive those things. So a child can be stressed out because their auntie, okay, I've worked with a child who was very paranoid and anxious in school. In fact, it was so bad that he got his grades, or his interest in schoolwork started to decrease or depreciate, because the teacher was always telling him that, I'm not your friend again, you're not a good boy, you're not my friend. This is a child who looks up to this teacher, and who felt that he needed to please the teacher, he needed to be in the teacher's good books. And for the teacher to be saying that to him, it made him very anxious, and it reflected in his behavior in school, it reflected in his grades. So there are things, basic things, that we as adults might look at and call trivial, but those things are actually big issues to the children because of their age, and because of how they see those things, and because of how they interpret those things, right? And when it comes to how people respond to stress, how people respond to stress is also very much related to their temperament, right? Very, very much related to their temperament. So two different people who have two different temperaments can be faced with the same stressful situation, but their reactions will be different. So, for somebody who has an intense temperament, they respond to joyful situations, they'll be very happy. If something good happens to them, they'll be very happy. It's the same thing in children. If you have a child who has an intense temperament, when they are happy, they are very happy. When they are angry, they are very angry and they show it. When they are stressed, they are very stressed as well, like when they are frustrated. For instance, you can have two children. One has like a normal temperament that isn't intense. Another one has an intense temperament, and both of them are trying to cover a bottle, and one covers the bottle and the bottle refuses to cover. The person who doesn't have the child who doesn't have an intense temperament will just move on onto another thing, or ask for help, or find a way to deal with it. But because the other one has an intense temperament, it's going to be very frustrated with the fact that the bottle has refused to cover, right? So for you to even help your child recognize stress and to handle stress and teach them to handle or to cope with the stress, you have to understand their temperaments, right? It is hard for you to teach a child how to handle stress if you don't understand their temperament. Because what happens if you don't understand their temperament is that you might think that they're being dramatic, you might think that they're being overreactive, or you might think that they're being docile, as the case may be. But when you understand the person's temperament and you know the weaknesses that come with that temperament, and the strengths that come with that temperament, and the tendencies that come with the way that temperament responds to stress, you're able to say, okay, this is what is going on, and this is how I can help my child. And you show up to help that child to navigate through that stressful situation. And when we talk about temperament, I largely group temperament for children into four basic temperaments, right? And we'll talk about it briefly, and their tendencies and how you can show up and help the child, especially to handle stressful situations, right? So there are four basic temperaments that I have used to categorize children. And the first one is the sanguine, right? This first one is the sanguine. And when we talk about the sanguine, the general idea of who a sanguine is that person that is fun loving. Is that child that would always want fun. That child that would say, oh, let's do it the fun way. That child that when he comes into this place, he's just looking for the fun things to do. He's warm to everybody, he's happy, he has a very great sense of humor and stuff like that. This is a very good attribute, but every temperament have their strengths and their weaknesses. And when it comes to stress, a sanguine has the tendency of using fun to mask their stress, right? So there are those kind of children that when they're going, they easily just want to let go of something that isn't working and just use fun or use play to cover it up. And the danger of that is that there are things that stress also helps us learn. So for instance, stress helps us to build our muscles, stress helps us to build resilience. So if you're able to navigate through a stressful situation thoroughly and well, and you come out of it, there's a tendency that you have become stronger, you have built your resilience, you have built your muscle to handle that situation if it comes in the future. But for a sanguine would rather not deal and try to use fun to cover it. Like, what's the next fun thing that's happening? I beg, I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to deal with this. They don't deal with things. And the problem is that when the cup is full, when the bottle is full, it can burst, right? When you have things that are happening to you that you're not dealing with, you're not talking about, and you're using fun jokes to mask them, when it's time, or when the cup finally gets full, or one day you just blow out, and people are like, where is this coming from, what's happening? They don't know that those things have been happening over time. So as a parent, what can you do for your sanguine child? You have to be present, you have to pay attention, and you have to help them learn how to stay on things and talk about how they feel, right? So your sanguine is that person that when somebody says something that hurts them, instead of them to talk about it, they try to mask it and they want to look for the next joke, make fun, and those kind of things. If you notice that in a child, um especially when maybe for the younger ones who are in their toddler years, preschool years, there isn't much you can do about it. But for your preteens and your teens, what you can do is to help them talk about how they feel, right? And this is why I always say that parenting is relationship. You must be in your child's life. You must be in your child's life, to pay attention. So when you're able to, they would minimize offenses. The sanguines, they will minimize offenses, they will minimize stressful situations. They have a tendency to want to take the blame, please the other person, just to not to get into that whole drama or negative energy. But you can be their safe space to say your feeling is valid, right? Your feeling is valid, and you can talk about this thing. This is what it is. It was an offense, it was a stressful situation, it made you feel this way. Help them to go in and acknowledge how they feel and deal with it, instead of masking it with that their fun loving nature, right? So this is why I say it's very important to know your child if you're going to help them to navigate stress, right? The next temperament is the melancholy. And the melancholy simply means those children that will say, let's do it the right way. The melancholic child is very, 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 very organized, right? And they imagine things in their head. They plan so much. They plan so much. They plan things in their head before they are the perfectionist. They have an idea of how they want things to go. The melancholic person has a tendency of being easily stressed. This is that child that if they have said, okay, I need to wear my shoe and then I'll walk 5 steps to the door before I get to the car. If anything alters any step as they have calculated it in their head, they're going to go crazy. It's going to be like their whole world is crumbling. So that they're easily stressed out, right? So how do you help this child? You have to help this child. This is not the child that you will now further push perfectionism to. You have to help this child to understand that everything doesn't have to be perfect. You have to encourage them when they fail. You have to make them always remind them that mistakes are part of life. You have to always remind them that if you make mistakes, okay, like my friend will always say, mistakes are learned, mistakes are seen and corrected. Mistakes are seen, they are learning opportunities, and they are corrected. So you teach them that mistakes happen. So what do you do with mistakes? When you see a mistake, it's okay, you take a deep breath and you think about what have I learned? First of all, what have I learned from this mistake? So from every mistake you can either learn what to do or what not to do, right? So you encourage the child, think about what you have learned from this missing step or these mistakes, and then how can we correct the mistake that we have done. And also teach them that not every mistake can be corrected in the immediate time, because they are very perfectionist. They want to fix everything, they want everything to go perfectly. So you have to hold on to that. If you notice that your child is melancholic, you have to hold on to that child and help them, and remember that these learnings are continuous, conversations. It doesn't just happen. Like, your child doesn't make a mistake today, get frustrated about it, get stressed out about it, and you think that, oh, when we just have the conversation once, they'll just learn how to handle everything. It doesn't happen that way. Your child will learn over time. So when you're teaching, also give room for learning to happen. Learning doesn't just happen in one sitting, right? So we have learned about sanguines, we have learned about melancholic children and their temperament, how they show up, and how you can help them, how they show up, how they respond to stress, and how you can help them navigate, right? So now the choleric child is the child who wants. They are the ones that we call the stubborn children, the strong-willed children. So they're the ones that will say, let's do it my way. It's my way or no other way, right? And these ones can make a fuss also when things are not going their way, right? So the choleric child is that child that will stress out or that will get frustrated when they want to wear a black shirt and you're telling them to wear a yellow shirt, which looks like it shouldn't be a problem, but then because they are choleric, because they want things to go their own way, it's going to stress them out. And remember what I said, that stress is not just about what happens, it's about how the person thinks about it, right? So the choleric child who you're trying to tell to wear something else when they want to wear another thing might be thinking, why does mommy like to make my life difficult? And that is going to stress them out. So for this kind of child, you have to, when you understand that this is the kind of child I have, you have to play team with the child, right? You have to learn how to play team with the choleric child, so that you guys are not at that loggerhead that is stressful, not just for the child but also for you. So how do you play team? This is the child that you would want to have conversations with, to ask, okay, so what do you think, what should we do? And why choleric children go to the extreme is because they are born leaders, they are natural leaders, so they always want to lead. And the only way to, you know be ahead of a choleric child, so to say, for a lack of a better word, is to give them opportunities to lead. Because when that need for them to lead is met, then you won't have a power struggle for them. So still using the example of the black and yellow shirt, for a choleric child, since you already know that if I tell my child to wear this black shirt, now we're going to have a struggle. It's going to end in stress for him and for me. So what do? I bring out a black and yellow shirt if both of them work for me. If both of them do not work for me, I bring out two other shirts that work for me, and I give them the opportunity to lead. And how do I give them the opportunity to lead? I present the two shirts to them and I'm asking them, so what do you think? Which one do you think we should wear? Which one do you think suits the occasion? Which one is more appropriate for the occasion? And they're going to choose one from that, and they think that they are the ones making the choice, and your problem is solved. And when you do that over and over again, you're also strengthening their ability to think through things, especially when every time you present them with a choice, you're making them think through the process. Why am I doing this thing? So for instance, using the example of the shirt, you're not just giving them a shirt and saying choose. You're saying, okay, which one is more suitable for church? Which one is more suitable for the weather? Which one fits the weather more, right? And they're going to choose. So they start to learn how to think, and that can help them navigate, through life as well. Then you have the phlegmatic child. The phlegmatic child is the child who wants the easiest way out, right? Abeg, let's do it the easiest way. I cannot come and kill myself. That's the phlegmatic child. I can't come and use my hand and kill myself. So these are the children who will shut down. Like if stress is coming like this, they are going this way. But remember that we said that stress can be good for us as well. We learn through stress. We build resilience as in by going through our stresses, the normal stresses of life, not the extra stresses that we put upon ourselves, not toxic stress, right? So one problem about this phlegmatic child is that they won't want to try. So the moment they hit a brick wall, they give up. They don't want to. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please let me know. I got cut off for a
Yes,
while.
yes, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. So the
It has gone off again. Okay, while we are waiting for Dr. Vivian, you can start sending in your questions right now. She disconnected and she's coming back, okay? So send in your questions now so that we can start so that she can start attending to them as soon as she's done. Yeah, it's been cut off again. Are you learning anything from this session? Because myself, I've already identified where my children fall into. Like I've already identified their own temperaments, and I'm learning how to handle them, um, how to work with them. You understand? So if you're learning something, you can share. You can also share this broadcast to your contacts so that they can also come and learn. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, she's back. She's back.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm broadcasting with my phone, so I was getting some calls that were disrupting the conversation. So I'm sorry about that. I was saying that the phlegmatic child is the child that you need to, give a push, right? You need to give them a push to, follow through on things. They are the ones that need your support more, right? When it comes to challenging and stressful situations, they're those ones that need acknowledgement. They're those ones that need encouragement, need to hear you saying, okay, keep trying, keep pushing, you can do it, right? Those ones that also need you to acknowledge how they feel, because they just want to run away from the situation. If you don't acknowledge how they feel, it makes them just shut down and move on. So they need that support and that acknowledgement. So I just said all of that to help you understand that for you to, in fact, the foundation of parenting is for you to understand your child, and for you to help your child. Because if you if you don't understand who your child is, you cannot help them. If you don't know their temperaments, if you don't know their weaknesses, their strengths, if you don't know how they show up and how they respond to life situations, you may not be able to help them. So the foundation of parenting is relationship, and you cannot parent any child that you have not taken your time to understand. So it's important for you to pay attention to all of these things, and know how who your child is and how you can help them navigate. If if i have the if I'm led by the spirit, I'll send the links to Dr. Ezine to send to those of you who attended the summit, so that you can, it's an assessment for you to know the temperament of your child. You can do it for each of your child to know their temperament, and it gives you some tools that you can use as well. So generally speaking, right, the first step in all of this, everything we have said, is to provide a safe space for your child. So you don't even the stress that you want to help your child to recognize and to handle, you don't want to be the source of the stress, because some of us are the source of our children's anxiety. We are the source of our children's anger and frustration, right? So how can you be the source of your child's anxiety if you have created a family system or a home where there is always tension, right? It's either you're fighting with your husband, you're always arguing, or it's a space where there's domestic violence. It's a space where you're always shouting at your children, you're always aggressive towards your children. Then you are the source of stress for your child, and there is no how you can help them navigate the stress if you are the source of stress. And again, you cannot provide this kind of space if you haven't learned how to handle your own stress. And I'm thankful that you are in this conversation, and through this summit you're going to learn how to handle your own stresses, because most of the things that children suffer in families is as a result of transferred aggression. right? So if you don't handle your own stress, there's a high chance that you're going to be stressed out, and the next person to transfer that aggression to is your child or to your spouse, right? So we need to handle our own stresses, and we need to provide a safe space for our children to be able to, express themselves, a safe space that isn't toxic for them, that isn't stressful for them. And for us to also handle our own stresses easily, I think that most of the unhealthy way that we have learned to cope or to handle stress comes from our childhood experiences, our trauma responses, right? So for us to actually handle our own stresses effectively, we have to go back in time, right? There is a back in time job that needs to be done for us to handle our stresses effectively, and that's going back in time to deal with our own baggages, to suit our own nervous system, because we are also coming from a place where our own nervous system is, overstimulated, oversensitive, and we are also hyper vigilant. So we're in that stress mode. Our brain is in survival mode, so we are always responding to things in the flight, freeze, and fight mode, right? You're always aggressive, or you're shutting down. When you feel stressed, you just shut everything down and you don't want to move on. Or when you feel stressed, you're angry, you're shouting at everybody, you're aggressive towards everybody. All of those responses come from our own childhood trauma, and our hypervigilance and our survival mode brain. But that's a whole different story altogether. The main thing you need to take from this point is deal with your own stress, learn how to handle your own stress, then create a safe space for your children. Your home should be a place where your child should feel seen, should feel heard, and should feel validated. And try to create a family system where all emotions are accommodated, right? Don't be that parent who is telling your child don't cry. I mean, you see that a child is obviously angry, you see that a child is frustrated about something, and you're saying, what's wrong with you? Shut up, you keep quiet. Some of us who beat our children, after beating the child, and the child is crying from the pain and from the frustration and from the sadness, and you're still telling them not to cry. I really don't understand that, right? So be create a family system where emotions are expressed. Because why am I saying this? Because if you encourage your children from suppressing their emotions now that they are little, they will become experts at suppressing and shutting down their emotions, at suppressing and shutting down their stresses, and not having conversations and not communicating their stresses. And even when the stress is big, if they have become experts with the small stresses, they will not talk about the big ones with you. They will shut it down, they will pretend like they're happy, and that is how we hear, oh, my child was in my house, I didn't know anything was wrong with them, and they committed suicide. That's because you didn't create a space where people could express how they feel, and without the fear of judgment, right? So it's even in creating that kind of space where your child can express themselves, that you can actually know what they're going through, how they feel about certain things, and then you problem solve with them to, or you allay their fears and tell them, oh, it's not what you think, you're interpreting it the wrong way, that's not what the person meant, that's not what I meant, this is what I meant, I'm sorry. You apologize, you repair, you reinforce, and then you create that relationship where they're safe enough to come to you with their stresses, because you are the adult, you have superior intelligence. So if they're able to come with their stresses and talk to you about them, they can vent. And venting is one way to handle stress, right? But if they don't have anywhere where they are venting, if they don't know, if they don't have anywhere where they are venting, there's a tendency that they will suppress and suppress, and one day they will blow up. That's why you see addiction, you see sex addiction, porn addiction, and everything, and then things like suicide. Is my time up, Dr. Ezine? This one you're coming on the screen. All right, is my time up?
Sorry, we can take questions. The
No,
next
please. Okay,
person
just
is
give me a few minutes. Let me round off, right? Okay, so So after creating a space and creating that environment where emotions can be, expressed easily, that's when you now start teaching coping mechanisms, right? Also remember that your kids will handle stress the way they have seen you handle stress. So if you're somebody that you lose it when you're stressed out, you're always shouting, that is how your kids will learn how to handle stress. So you need to learn how to handle stress yourself. I repeat that, for you to be able to teach your kids. And some of the coping mechanisms that we have, some of the common coping mechanisms for stress that we have for kids, right, are things like breathing exercise, right? So kids, toddlers who are frustrated with every little thing, they're throwing tantrums. That's when you start teaching them. You start teaching them to breathe, calm down, breathe, and when they breathe and when they are calm, then you start to tell stories about what happened. So let's say your child is playing with their toy and one of the legs of the toy flies away and they become frustrated by that and they start to cry and all of that. That is a stressful situation for the child. So what you can help them, when you come there, you first of all validate how they feel. Oh, you feel angry because of the leg of your toy has gone out. They will nod and you're saying, okay, take a deep breath in and out, take a deep breath in and out, another deep breath in and out. When you notice that they have calmed down, then you tell a story about what has happened. And what do you do with the story? Why are you telling a story? You're telling a story because you want to move your child from from their downstairs brain, which is the emotional side of the brain, to their upstairs brain, which is the thinking side of the brain, and it's to help them calm down. When you're stressed out, you're not thinking. But if you're able to move your brain to upstairs brain and you're trying to think, okay, what can I do? How do I solve this problem? You see yourself calming down a lot more. So that's what you help your child do when you're trying to tell a story. So you're like, okay, so what happened? So Obina was playing the car and he moved it up and down and the leg of the car fell away. So what do we do about the leg of the car? We think about how to fix it. So how do we fix it? Okay, let's get a glue. You tell a story about it, make it fun, and you see that they will calm down. And if you do that over and over again with them, they learn how to do it by themselves. Another coping mechanism is movement, right? So when kids are stressed out, one of the things you can tell them to do is, oh, can you do a jumping jack? Can we move? Can we shake our body? When you shake your body, you learn how to calm down. So movement is important. Then mindfulness practices is very, very important. Every family should incorporate mindfulness practices in their routine. For some people, it can be in their meal time. For some people, it can be in their devotional time and all of that. So incorporate mindfulness. Teach your children how to be mindful, how to stay quiet, how to self-reflect, in words as much as you can. Then communicate. Communication is like, creating that space where your child can vent about how they feel about, their stresses, and it's a major coping mechanism for stress as well. So I think I would round off with that.
I'm sorry I had to cut you short. I know there is still a lot to learn from you.
No problem.
And thank you so far. Thank you so far. Let me just go straight to the questions.
Okay.
You see what we are talking about? I have someone already calling me one way to come and attend. Oh my God.
That's reality.
I'm coming, okay? So let's go straight to the questions. I have one here. Someone says, why is it that stress is good for you but also kills you at the same time?
Okay, so when I started, I mentioned that stress can become toxic, right? So stress, like I said, it can be good for you because sometimes you don't even know that you can handle some things, but when stressful situations come, you realize that you think outside the box, you get creative. It can inspire you to do things that you wouldn't have thought of doing if those situations did not come to push you, right? So that's like challenges that we meet on it and every day that push us out of our comfort zone, that helps us to build resilience, that helps us to learn more about ourselves, helps us to learn more about how to handle situations. That is how it is good. But when it can kill you is when it becomes like toxic. And it can become toxic when it becomes, stress is intoxicating. So, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I said because most of us had childhood that were stressful, our body is already used to stress. So, when we don't have stress, we want to generate stressful situations to suit that our nervous system that is used to stress. So, that is when it becomes toxic stress. When you're constantly craving for stressful situations and you don't have the tools to handle them effectively, and you just live in that space of stress, then it can become, a problem for you if your stress response system is constantly releasing the hormones cortisol, adrenaline. It can become toxic to your body and cause sicknesses for your body as well. So there are two different things: normal stress and toxic stress. So I guess.
The second question is, somehow it can be too much on you when you create space for expression of emotions. How do you deal with a female child that gets emotional about everything?
So yeah, that shows you, melancholic children can be very emotional. I mentioned because somehow they have a perfect idea of what life should be, and when life isn't that way, they get really emotional. They are the children that when you call them names, they get really, they take it personal. So it is who your child is. They are emotional and they are made that way for a reason. What you can help them reinforce, like I told you, that most times stress is not about what really happened, it's about how we think about what happened. So for that child, what you can help them reinforce now is to get into their head and know how they are thinking about the situation. So for instance, you have that child that maybe you don't say hello to them and they get really emotional. So you can sit down and have a conversation with them. Oh, I forgot to say hello to you. And if someone doesn't say hello to you, doesn't mean the person doesn't love you, right? And even if the person doesn't love you, it's still okay. Not everybody will love you. So you just have those conversations to help them start to think differently about those things that they are taking personal. So it's a journey. You can't change them from being emotional. You can just give them the tools to navigate those things that make them really emotional. Yeah.
Okay. So this should be our last question. So if anybody else have questions, Dr. Vivian will tell us how we can reach her so that we can communicate with her or ask her anything else further. So Miracle says, my younger brother is a choleric and is easily tempered. What can I do to help
So the thing is, there is no 5 steps for helping your brother deal with.
him?
The only thing I know about choleric people that I told you about is that they are born to lead and they are made choleric for a reason. So what you can do is to be a team player, right? To be a team player. Don't impose things on them. Try to work together with him. Try to get his own perspective of things and then meet yourself in the middle ground. Try to have conversations with them and just be a team player. When you impose to a choleric, they will push back. But when they realize that you're willing to hear from them, you're willing to give them some room to lead, then you have won them over. There are a lot of things to say about that, but of course, time will not permit us. And I'm hoping that maybe we'll meet somewhere else and we can talk more about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're going to tell us how we can meet you so that we can learn more because this feels so rushed. Like there is so
Yes.
much. I know there's so much out there for you to
Yeah.
teach us, but from the ones you've even said, I'm not the only one that feels good. Like I've learned something. Someone says this parenting thing is not really, and that is true.
I
This is what
agree.
we're
I
talking
agree.
about.
I agree. So, okay. So if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Vivian. That's VIVIANN dot Okoye, OKOYE, on Instagram. Or you can check my website, drvivianokoye.com. I always share, and if we need to connect further, you can send me a DM and we can talk always. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can we show appreciation in the comment section? Dr. Vivian
Thank
has given
you.
us something that she charges people to learn from. To
Thank you.
learn.
Thank you.
So can you just appreciate her in the comment section? This is her Instagram handle, Vivian with double N dot Okoye. So you can reach out to her to ask her anything else you want to learn about. Okay. And then Chiwedu is saying, thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. Awesome session. Paul is saying, thank you very much. Lydia is saying, thanks, really helpful. We are really, really grateful. Thank you so much. I've learned
Thank you very
something.
much.
Yeah, Victoria, everyone is saying thank you. We are grateful to
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Vivian. So
You're welcome.
hopefully we'll continue after here to ask more
Yeah,
questions and
hopefully.
to learn
Alright.
because parenting is not easy.
At all, at all, at all, at all. Yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
for having me and have a wonderful, amazing summit.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. All
All
right.
right.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
So we are going to the next session, which is with Dr. Bonjubola Abiri. You'll agree with me that our sessions, our teachers are really amazing. I'm still reading comments, like lots and lots of comments. So why we are, oh my god, this is what we are talking about. Parenting is not easy. Because see, people are watching. People are watching. The mother dey look at ya. All right. Our next session is coming up shortly. She's already here. So let me just let her know that we are ready for her. Mommy, hold on, okay? Mm, I think I should give you guys some music while she joins in. Meanwhile, this is going to be okay. Okay, so oh, she's here already. Okay. Hello, Dr. Bonjubola.
Hi, good afternoon. I think
Good
you should play the music.
afternoon. I should play it, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if
it's,
they can hear me while I'm playing the music.
well, I could hear it, so I'm assuming everyone
Oh,
else can hear. Yeah.
okay. Let me give them some,
Yeah.
some beautiful moments. So, guys, if you guys know who is here with you right now, you start contributing your money right now because this is my consultant, Dr. Pojubola Abiri, consultant psychiatrist, and she's also putting on the hat of a psychologist, like a lot of caps, a lot of hats. Hope I got that correctly. And she's going to be talking to us right now on let me put up her session. What she's going to be teaching on is work stress. Okay, she's teaching us how to cope with work stress for maximum productivity. Okay, so if you are planning to leave this session or you're planning to leave the summit at this point, I'm sorry for you. I can't help you. I can't help you. So it's best you stay and learn from her. All right. So we'll be hearing from Dr. Bonjubola next. Let me turn off the music so we can hear. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss any word. All right. You can take over the stage, Ma.
All right. So thank you very much for having me. And I'm trying to stand myself. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for having me. I can see here you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you. All right. My name is Bonjubola Abiri, and like Izine just rightly said, I am a consultant psychiatrist, managerial psychologist, and yesterday I forgot to add, I'm actually a lecturer as well, an adjunct lecturer. And so I enjoy to teach, I enjoy to speak, and I feel very honored and delighted to be here as well. Thank you so much for putting this together, Izine, and I'm hopeful that, everyone will take a or two or even more conversations in today. And so I will be speaking to us today on a topic, like I always say, very dear to my heart. It's how to cope with work stress and maximize productivity. So I'd been on the call for quite a while Vivian was speaking. And so I definitely did learn a lot. And, I'm thinking, well, Vivian is already saying some of the things I'll be saying, isn't it? Are you sure you still want me to speak? All right. And so yes, talking about, coping with work stress and maximizing productivity. I actually did make slides. And, on the slide that I had, I actually said, how are you coping? I'm trying to see if I can pull my slides up from my computer. Okay. Well, so that I don't waste time trying to do that. So the slide that I had where I said, how are you coping? Said, I'm coming, I'm trying to find the presentation. 8. Ta-da, good. I hope it comes up. It's uploading and we're just about to see it now. Right, so while it's still loading, the topic again, like I said, is how to cope with work stress and maximize productivity. And so quite a number of times when people hear the word stress, all that they're thinking about is, negative connotations. Stress is bad, stress is negative, stress can cause from as little as the common cold to, can anyone see the slides? Ezine, I'm already sharing the slides. I don't know if anyone can see it. Fantastic. Okay, great. So I'm happy I have my slides. So yes, and so stress people have, demonized stress to be able to cause from as little as the common cold to as bad as, excuse me, as a heart attack, or to as bad as a respiratory disorder. And yes, stress can cause a lot of those things, depending on how, how much stress we expose ourselves to and how we are in our physical and mental health as well. And so it's a good conversation, especially in the face of constant stress, to be able to learn how it is that we can cope with work stress and maximize productivity. And so this was the slide that I was referring to. How are you coping? And so it's been a turbulent almost 2.5 years with the advent of, the COVID-19 virus, and then it became a pandemic. And then, of course, life did not stop. And so we see this man, Mr. A, like I like to call him, trying to protect his mental health with an item that all of us have become so familiar with that is pretty much a visa for entering anywhere. And so most places where we go now, whether it's be church, school, mosque, international organizations, or even trying to enter the airport, you see no mask, no entry. Are you willing to share with me how it is that you have been coping or trying to protect your mental health for the past couple of months? How have you been coping? I would appreciate that we have some answers in the chat box as we, continue this discourse and conversation. How are you coping? And so what I want us to realize today is there are no right or wrong answers. And the reason why we're here is we're here to learn. I usually see every teaching or opportunity rather as an opportunity to not just teach, but also be taught as well. Not just let others learn, but also let me learn. And so how are you coping? How have you been coping with all the stress that you currently have been going through? Are you willing to share? I'll take a minute off my time and listen to how it is, or read your comments as to how it is that you've been coping in these times. And so I can see everyone, responding appropriately to the slide. But I'd like to read from us how it is that we've been coping with stress, or how it is that we've been trying to protect our mental health. Thank you very much, Paul Oyewusi. Paul says, I try to relax and not put pressure on myself intentionally. Thank you, Paul. Anyone else willing to share? Somebody is typing. Who is typing? Let's see your response. Sometimes I see movies. Paul, still Paul. Isn't it? I would advise that you give something to the most... Okay, I sleep and watch movies. Well, intentionally taking it one day at a time. Yes, I do things that make me laugh and relax. Fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing how it is that you cope with stress, or how it is that you've been coping with all the pressure in life, or how it is that you have been trying to protect your mental health. Thank you very much. I'd like to talk to us this evening about how that we currently live in a world that is called a VUCA world. And so since I'm talking from the perspective of the workplace, I think it's only fair to let us realize that the 21st century workplace has been described as a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and interestingly, even this definition or this acronym has had the R added to it. And so we, sometimes it's called a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and risk-filled world. And so I still have some responses coming in about how people relax. I watch football and comedy. I listen to music, watch movies, and read novels. I make out time to get to good sleep and try to remain calm. Music and exercise help too. When I feel stressed, I tend to take a break. I relax by listening to music and see comedy clips. I cope by resting, relaxing, and do things that make me happy. Ngozi says, I sometimes avoid, accept, or relax. Faith says, I started therapy. Thank you for sharing with us, for being vulnerable with us. And Victoria says, I take short naps when I'm tired. Short naps, of course, power naps. That will make it look like I just slept an entire night. Meanwhile, it was only a 5-minute nap that you slept. Adaeze says, I binge on Netflix. Adaeze, we're here for you today. And then TDWN Media says, I turn off my internet. I avoid delving into trending negative stories, news, and avoid people who take my space or make me tense. I plan my activities, Kelechi, so that I don't get choked up. Thank you very much, Paul, for reiterating what it is that we've said about the volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and risk-filled world. And it would interest us to know that the business world had been described with this even before the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so imagine how much more of a culmination of negative issues that we had when the COVID-19 pandemic came to town. And of course, COVID is still here with us, ravaging different places at different rates and affecting different people at different times. Of course, it's also important to talk about the fact that definitely COVID-19 pandemic impacted all our lives, both positively and negatively. Some people became better, some people became bitter for it. But it's also important that we take the learning that the COVID-19 pandemic was, of course, a negative or a significant traumatic life event for many of us. And so this, my slide says, how good is work? And so we hear, most times, these days when I go on LinkedIn, I just say, congratulate me, I'm starting a new job opportunity. I'm starting a new job opportunity. But I also know that quite a number of us have stepped off or stepped away from workplaces. I used to work, but I went away from my work a few weeks ago. And so I'm also thinking that, well, while some people are getting into, the workplace, some also are leaving the workplace or taking transitions in the meantime. And so I say to us this evening that even the WHO believes that work is good for health. But a negative workplace will be detrimental to not just our physical health, but our mental health as well. It's also important that we note that people, individuals like you and I who work, spend nearly 1/3 of our adult lives at work. That's a lot of time. And so if you're in a place that is not conducive for you or that you don't feel satisfied or happy, you can imagine how detrimental that would be to your well-being overall. Research has also shown that as compared with any generation of people, we as individuals are currently faced with the most amount of stress ever known to man. And so that's why conversations go around, oh, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm stretched. We hear of people attending Zoom meetings, dropping dead. We hear of people, who are at work and are driving to work and, suddenly can't drive anymore because they've died. We hear of people who are young as 25, sometimes as young as 22, developing illnesses that we usually said were reserved for older people. Hypertension, diabetes, to mention just a few. And so if your workplace is negative or the work process is negative, you are likely to suffer. Bearing in mind that there's a lot of pressure and stress in this generation as compared to ever before. Work is good, but you must remember that a negative workplace is detrimental for your health and well-being. I think it's also important to add that many of the workplaces that we have nowadays have a banner outside. For me, I would call it an imaginary banner. And I often ask people, if you went to a place and they told you that working here may be dangerous to your health and sanity, will you take the job? Let's see your responses in the chat box. If you went to a place where they say that working here may be dangerous to your health and sanity, would you take the job? If yes, tell me why. If no, please be my guest and tell me why as well. I'll be waiting. Okay, so wow, nice. This isn't it, the crowd here, I would like to say, is it's quite informed. Or maybe they're not adventurous. We could look at it from two different, viewpoints. But thank you so much for your honest answers. And so a big no. Paulo Ewusi says a big no. Chiwendu says no. Uzi Ezenwugo says no because I value my mental health a lot. Ofo Oniye says no because it's dangerous to my health. Paulo Ewusi reiterates by saying working in a place detrimental to my health is constantly going to break me down. TDWN says, I will take it if the pay is great and can afford my kids the life that I didn't have. Oh, that's so it's good to look at. Isaacson saying, nah, not at all. Ruth, no, working in a place where one's mental sanity is at stake is same as signing a warrant for, I won't read that word, but I'll say mental illness. And then Genevieve says, no, because my mental health first, both mental and physical health. Eunice says, no, because my health and mental health is what keeps me going. If what keeps me going is in danger, I am truly in danger. Thank you so much for responding and making us see that, a lot of workplaces, they don't have those banners, but a lot of workplaces are toxic. And part of the workplace toxicity, part of the workplace culture, part of the stresses at the workplace are part of what increase the negative effects that we have on not just our physical and mental health as well. As we know, mental illness is major at the workplace, especially depression and anxiety, and of course, substance use. And it would interest us to know that 1 in 5 persons at some point in their life will have a mental health disorder because of the stress at work. And then so I say to us, stress, what really are you? Because I met the conversation with Dr. Vivian on stress, I would assume that a lot of us have an idea of what stress is. But a lot of us still look at stress as being the bad guy, like I said when I started. Stress is said to be the epidemic of the 21st century and affects anyone. Stress is pretty much like mental illness. Mental illness and stress affect people, and coronavirus, of course, affect people regardless of age, gender, race, religion, any other affiliations, and socioeconomic status as well. However, stress is not always negative because stress is a normal physiological and physical reaction to the demands of the life that we all go through. We all need a little form of stress to keep us motivated so that we can perform our duties every day. I had the question when I was, waiting in the back room about when someone was saying, well, you said a little stress is good, Dr. Vivian. When does stress become detrimental? And so we need to know that there are 2 major types of stress. The good stress, also known as eustress, and the distress, also known as the bad or unhealthy stress. And so the eustress is a form of stress that will, of course, come in short bursts preferably and helps us to enable concentration, increase performance, and energizes us to action. And so, such as getting into the university, getting engaged, winning the lottery perhaps. Negative stress is known as distress. And when distress comes, it is most likely chronic, which is where stress then starts to become problematic for us. Because distress could lead us to loss of motivation, reducing effectiveness, and cause physical, mental, and behavioral problems. And so examples of that will be a difficult work environment, which is pretty much what we're talking about today, threats of personal injury, diseases, and any forms of emergencies. Yes. And so since we are looking critically at workplace stress, it's important to look at the sources of stress at work. Because the truth is that there's stress everywhere. But the peculiarity of stress at work, remember that I had said when I was laying the background that we spend a third of our lives at the workplace. That's plenty, if you ask me. And so if you're in a place where you are unhappy, where you feel unfulfilled, where you feel unsatisfied, or you constantly feel judged and negative, you may have major stress coming your way. And so some of the things that can affect or cause us stress at work include the design of tasks, wearing too many hats, not being able to say explicitly that, oh, this is what I am supposed to do per time. Sometimes it's the management style. Is the management style dismissive? Is the management part of the decisions that you make? Or does the management make you feel like you just fell from somewhere in the sky? When you don't feel like you are part of an organization, it can cause you a major source of stress at work. Sometimes it's career concerns. Am I doing too little? Am I doing too much? Is what I am doing counting? Does anyone see it? Does anyone appreciate it? Am I improving on myself, or I'm just staying at the same level? Oh, I've been at this job for 5 years, no promotion. Oh, there's a lot of workplace politics that is affecting whether or not I do well at work. Or are you one of those people that works in those institutions that when you get to work on a Monday morning, that's when you try to log into the system and you're like, you can't log in. In other words, you don't work here anymore. Sometimes it's the work roles that we take on. And so some people have clear, delineated work roles. They know what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Some others are taking up jobs because of the demands of society. I am an engineer, but because there is a job in an accounting firm, well, I'll take it up. They'll pay now. Do you have the skill set? Are you able to cope? Do you even understand what it is that you're supposed to be doing in that role? That can be a source of stress. Sometimes it's interpersonal relationships. And interpersonal relationships, what we find is that some people don't get well with others at work, either because of their personalities or because of their beliefs and where it is that they're from, past experiences, or people where I worked with before, they stressed me a lot, they didn't like me, and you become paranoid at the workplace. Sometimes you have other co-workers who are over-involved in what it is that you're doing, and they don't let you do what it is that you're supposed to do. Sometimes it's the supervisor who is breathing down your neck or telling you how you are not good enough or how the work that you're doing is not good enough. Interpersonal relationships, of course, definitely because we are social beings and we're supposed to interact with one another. If we are not effectively able to deliver on the job because other people are actually not speaking to us, and that, it happens a lot. I once managed a young lady that at the workplace, nobody was speaking to her. Everyone else was in a WhatsApp group. They took her out from the WhatsApp group. And so she became paranoid. She started feeling like, oh, they're always talking about me. Oh, I don't do well. Oh, I'm such a negative person. Unfortunately, it led to a major mental disorder. Sometimes it's the environmental conditions. Is the place bright? Is it beautiful? Is it clean? Is it dirty? Is it dingy? Regardless of how we try to disregard that, how a place looks and feels can have an impact on how it is that we effectively do our jobs or on our productivity as well. And so I move on to sources of stress at home or in the environment. And again, remember that I said there's stress everywhere. Sometimes you can be the source of your stress because you sometimes have realistic and unrealistic expectations of yourself. Sometimes it's because you like being perfect. Sometimes it's because you're too organized and you leave no room for error. And so when error comes, you don't know how to balance out. You feel like you failed. Anything that you don't get done, you equate it to failure. Unfortunately, that's going to bring a lot of depression and anxiety to you, as well as increase your risk for a physical health condition. Sometimes it's external sources of stress, relationships with friends, with spouses, with children, with family. People are asking you, oh, when are you getting married? Oh, they're asking you, oh, now you have boys, when are you going to have a girl? They're asking you all sorts of questions. Sometimes external could be traffic. And so if you live in a city like Lagos or New York, mega cities, where people spend a lot of productive hours in traffic, I know how extremely tasking that can be and a huge source of stress as well. Sometimes it's financial issues. And ladies and gentlemen, this one is very, very important. It's very, very important because all of us spend money, think about money, make money. And so whenever we do not have enough, or we don't know where the next source of income is going to come from, we can actually become stressed, chronic stress, especially when you don't have a major source of income or the income that you have is not even, commensurate with all the work that you've done. Sometimes it's too many commitments. You have to be father, brother, uncle, teacher. Again, you can see that I'm using the male gender. And so many times we would have pushed the female gender and said, oh, she has to be mother, she has to be sister, she has to be daughter, she has to be wife, she has to be caterer, she has to be nanny. All of us, we are all in this together. And we all have commitments that are tugging and pulling us apart and are causing us a lot of stress, pressure, and a lot of detriment to our physical and mental health. Of course, we should talk about insecurity. Insecurity in our land, insecurity even abroad. And so, you know, in Nigeria, for instance, I wanted to take a holiday a few weeks ago. And so I wanted to go to the Southeast. And when I heard about some, I just said, no, I'm not going again. Stress levels, of course, went high. And then I said, oh, I'll go to Ibadan. And then by the time I heard about the train attack, I'm like, oh no, I was going to take the train. I can't go. And so even at home, you are extremely worried, fearful of what might go on. Sometimes, of course, it's the uncertainty of life. What will happen tomorrow? What will the dollar be tomorrow? I mean, I woke up yesterday and somebody was saying, oh, $200 is now a lot of money. I mean, the dollar is like 600,000 naira. They were saying it was already 120,000 naira. Sometimes we sleep and we don't know if by the next morning when we wake up, petrol prices would have gone high. My colleagues were having a conversation today and saying that in the UK, petrol prices are about 1,200 naira per litre. Uncertainty at work, uncertainty at the home front, it can be destabilizing. And it definitely does lead to increased stress in individuals. We must talk about stress and the changing world. And while we'll say that the only constant thing in life is change, change is often met with resistance. Resistance from us, resistance from other people, because they are used to the way of doing things. However, there is the need to cope with the normal stresses of life. One of the major definitions of mental health and well-being says that not only are we successfully able to perform the functions of thoughts, emotions, perception, cognition, behavior, but that we are also able to have thriving relationships, contribute our own quota to the environment we live in, be part of a functional environment, but also know how to cope with the normal stresses of life. And so you see, even the WHO admits to the fact that stress is a normal part of life. How do we as individuals react to stress? And so there are 3 stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Because our body knows that stress is normal and our body anticipates stress. Whenever it sees stress, it has what we call a fight, flight, freeze. A lot of, examples have been given, which causes you to be ready for physical activity. What's happening? What's the next step? What's this? Well, that's normal. And so after that happens, your body goes back to a state of rest. By the time your body is getting to what we call stage 2, the stage of resistance, if stress continues, the body continues to adapt to the stressors that it is being exposed to. However, there's a dangerous stage that is called exhaustion. And a lot of people who live, again, in mega cities or who are exposed to chronic stress are at this stage of exhaustion. Here, the stress continues to last for a long time. This is where we should be worried. This is where we should be concerned, because exposure to chronic stress affects from the strand of our hair to the sole of our feet. And of course, if you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not, paying attention to the things that are going on with you, I'm hoping that we will not become burned out or have what is called, sudden death. And so how do we cope with stress? Because I must say to you, stress ain't going nowhere. Stress is a part of our lives. It's part of our lives. You wake up like this. If you live on the mainland, you're already thinking third mainland bridge. If you stay on the island and you have to go to the mainland, you're thinking traffic. How do we cope with stress? Most parents, if you're a parent on this call and you're listening to this conversation, you're already thinking, oh my days, school fees. That's another source of stress. If you work, you're already thinking, oh my days, it's Friday, I have the weekend to rest, but Monday morning, they're going to call that performance meeting again. What am I going to tell my boss that is always shouting at me? And so stress everywhere. There's stress. Sometimes there's stress from the home front, even with issues like, violence at home. And we should be, real and be able to talk about this problem, because stress is not going anywhere. I often say that sources of stress are people, places, and processes. And we'll get to that in a bit. But coping with stress, we need to cope, because it's not going anywhere. We need to think about the fact that we can cope with stress by either deciding to problem solve or to reduce the emotions that we attach to stress. And so some of the methods of problem solving include the fact that we must seek help. There's nothing wrong in getting help. There's nothing wrong in being vulnerable. And so what I've found is that a lot of times when people come to, sessions, they are guarded, they've thought about it for many years before they even show up at your session. And they're saying, I don't want people to think that I'm weak. There's nothing wrong with being weak. The example I always give is that when is a bird most beautiful? Is it when it's sitting and eating on a branch? No. A bird is most beautiful when it takes flight and it spreads its wings. But that is also when a bird is most vulnerable. There's nothing wrong in being vulnerable, especially in places where you feel safe. And so seek help. Obtain information and obtain information from the right source. People will always have something to say, but be sure that you are speaking to people who have your best interests and who are able to solve your problem, or at least give you an idea of how it is that you solve your problem. And that's where professionals come in. And then, of course, sometimes in problem solving, you confront the problem. What exactly is this problem? Let's look at it. What is it bringing? The other thing that we can do is that we can reduce the emotion that we attach to situations when they happen. We can talk about the emotion, ventilate. You can evaluate the problem. Also, this thing that I'm even saying is a problem. Is it really a problem? Or am I the one, making a mountain out of a molehill? We can do what is called a positive appraisal of the situation at hand. And so no matter how bad the situation is, there's always something to look out for. The example I often give is that one day I took my daughter for a spelling bee competition. And a few days later, she said, Mom, I feel sad I didn't come first. And I'm like, daughter, out of over 200 people, you were top 5. It was your first spelling bee competition ever. You should be proud of yourself. You didn't win, yes, but you did something that you had never done before. And so interestingly, 2 years down the line, a few weeks ago, she won a spelling bee and came first. And so sometimes how we deal with stress when things happen would state whether or not we are able to cope with difficulties when we're faced with them. The last but not the least is that sometimes we may need to avoid the problem. So for instance, if you get into a shouting match with somebody at work, you may not want to burn the place down with all your energies. You may just want to, let's take a break. We'll come back to this. The other thing that I want us to learn, to start to do, is to do what is known as the new stress perspective. And the new stress perspective teaches us that you need to start reorientating in your mind that stress is not always bad. As a man thinks, so is he. If you think that stress is bad, man, stress will be bad. If you think that, man, stress has to happen, we'll just roll with it. Your mind will rise up to the occasion and help you manage the situation. And so we need to change what is known as our thought, feelings, and behavior. Change your thoughts about stress. If the only thing you're able to take away from this session today is stress is not always bad. Stress can be my friend. Stress can be a motivator. It can be a driver. It can push me to be bigger and better. You also need to change how you feel. Of course, when you change your thoughts, if you have positive thoughts, your body is likely to react in a positive way. It would also help you change your behavior, which is your overall perspective on things. And so, ladies and gentlemen, not all stress is bad. Stress is not always negative. Stress can, in fact, be your friend. If there's a conversation I'd like you to listen to, take away from this session, it's to listen to a TED Talk by Kelly McGonigal that says how to make stress your friend. And what Kelly explains most times is how that it is not the stress in itself that kills people. It is the thought about the stress. While we also know that there are healthy ways of coping with stress, we must identify that there are unhealthy methods of coping with stress. And that's why when earlier I asked how it was that we cope, and someone had said, oh, I binge watch Netflix. I said, it's because of you that were here. And of course, in saying that, I know what I'm saying. Some of us cope unhealthily with methods such as using alcohol excessively or use of illicit substances such as marijuana, cocaine, crack, heroin, to mention just a few. Sometimes it's abuse of unprescribed medication. Or the doctor said I should use 2, I'll use 10. And you'd be shocked. People do those things. People even go as far as injecting themselves, even when they have no medical expertise, just to feel high or to forget the problem on ground. Sometimes some people constantly avoid the problem or the source of stress. They avoid it and do not approach it and pretend like there's no problem. Meanwhile, the stress is brewing there. It's like putting dust under a carpet. Sometimes it's procrastination. Oh, I'll get to it later. Oh, I'll do it later. Oh, later. But later now becomes now. And again, your body is in a state of resistance and exhaustion. Sometimes it's overeating. And so we find that some people don't eat to feed their bodies. They eat to fuel their emotions. We call that comfort eating. Sometimes it's deliberate self-harm. Oh, I'm sad, I'll cut myself. Oh, I'm sad, let me cut myself and see blood come out. People do it. There's also the unrestrained display of feelings, aggressive behavior. And last but not the least, which is what I had said earlier, spending excessive time on the internet, on TV, on our devices, just because we are trying to escape reality. And so, who is this? Again, this is also for humor. A lot of us are this person when it's Sunday night and the reality of the fact that another working week is about to start. But we can't, again, like I said, run away from stress. How then can we maximize productivity? I've said earlier that very often when I talk about stress and I talk about the sources of stress, I like to talk about how it is about people, the place, and the process. And so for people, Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, has said to us, man, know thyself. Because it is in the knowing of yourself that the best can emerge. If you don't know yourself, you can't even start knowing other people. And so there's the place for self-awareness, self-regulation, before you then learn how to manage people and then manage your energy. And I'm saying here, manage your energy, not your time. I'll talk about that in a few slides down. We need to start making official places conducive with a lot of improved sanitation and cleaning measures, with increased airflow, increased indoor air quality, physical distancing, and limiting physical contact between employees. This, again, are the attributes of the workplace of the future. For the process, the future workplace must ensure that it empowers and inspires people to do their best work by communicating, collaborating, and solving problems. Collaboration is the new competition. We are all working towards one goal and must be seen to be doing that. What are some of the practical methods to manage stress and ensure productivity or maximize productivity, as my topic has said? And so over the past couple of years, what we've always heard is, oh, work-life balance. Oh, my work must be balanced, my life must be balanced. But we all know now that that is indeed a facade. Your life is more than your work. There's so many other facets to you. There's your spirituality, there's your physical health, there's your emotional health, there's your occupational health, there is financial, there's family, there are your interests. And so it's difficult to balance it. It can be 50-50. And so we must start to look at life at how one impacts on the other and that they do not occur in isolation. And so instead of work-life balance, please think work-life harmony. It's continuous, it's a cycle, and it feeds into each other. One must feed into the other. And so we must ensure that at all times, we give our best selves to different parts of our lives. Practice mindfulness. I know that Dr. Vivian had mentioned this, and so I'll leave it for a little. It's important to focus on what you can control. There's so much you can't control. And what can you control? Your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. You can't control that Apple will be this price tomorrow, or that Gary will be this price, or that the dollar will be you can't. And so don't fret over what you can't control. Please take your leave. Many of us in Nigeria often monetize our leave. Oh, I don't want to go, just give me the money for the leave. Oh, I like the job, I want to keep working. Don't let your passion push you to your death. Rest. Take your leave. Casual leave, exam leave, maternity leave. Take it. It's your right. I said here that we must learn soft skills. The soft skills of communication, assertiveness, problem solving. We must learn emotional intelligence, largely because these are the skills that are needed in the future workplace. And if you ask me, the future is already here. Manage your energy, not your time. Time is a finite resource. But your energy, on the other hand, can go up and down. It can wax and wane. And so you must realize that as an individual, you have physical energy, emotional energy, psychological energy, and spiritual energy. Eat right, sleep well, exercise, physical energy. Emotional energy, affirm yourself. Tell yourself you are doing the best that you can, but of course, ensure that you are improving on yourself. Ernest Hemingway said that there is nothing noble in being superior to a fellow man. True nobility comes in being superior to yourself. And so ask yourself every day, what have I done today that makes me a better version of myself than I was yesterday? For your psychological energy, focus on tasks that take a lot of your energy early on in the day. And of course, for your spiritual energy, depending on what it is that you believe in, ensure that you connect to your source. You also need to pay attention to your health, your physical health, emotional health. You are never too young to have a condition, but ensure that you are doing the best that you can to keep your health. I wish I could say that over and over and over again, but that is extremely important. There's nothing as good as being in health. It is when we lose health that we realize that we've lost a lot. See your doctor. You know, every time you're driving and you hear on your car, you're like, I have to take my car to the mechanic. Don't wait for your body to give you signs. The body keeps scores. You need to take care of yourself and pay attention to yourself. Make yourself a priority. I said here as well that you must focus on and celebrate your little successes. When I said earlier that sometimes we can be the greatest source of stress to ourselves, it's because sometimes we don't celebrate the things that we do. We say, oh, it's just small, nobody will notice. But the truth is, people are watching. Keep doing the work. Recognition will come. Celebrate your success. No one can do it for you like you. I said it here, that turn off your devices. We've become so dependent on technology to do everything. Oh, I have to send this text. Oh, I want to, and sometimes I'm guilty. I pick up a phone and I say, I just want to send a text message. That's all. And 15 minutes later, I find that I'm on Instagram land. We must put limits and boundaries. And sometimes go out without our devices. There was life before all of these things came. 2 days ago, I went out and I left my phone at home and I felt at peace. If you start feeling like every time there's always the need to take my phone, there's always the need to check something on the internet, there's always, you may be pushing towards what is known as an internet addiction. There's this really nice movie on Netflix that talks about internet addiction. Before we get off, I would remember the title. The last thing that I want us to do is to learn to care for others. Caring allows for resilience. In caring for others, we learn the things that they are going through. We learn that life is tough, even for others. In reaching out to others, of course, we also learn how it is that we can be vulnerable. And so, caring for others creates resilience. The movie I was trying to remember is titled The Social Dilemma. We need to watch that movie. Care for others, because life is not just about you. Things might be all right for you today, but you never know what others are going through. The last thing I wanted us to do, and I thought we could do a practical session, is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. I don't know how much time we have, but I have come to the end of my own presentation. And so, Dr. Ifuni stepping in.
Yeah, you can teach us the breathing technique.
Fantastic. And so I want everyone on the call right now to sit comfortably wherever it is that you are. Sit comfortably in your chair, on your bed. Just be relaxed. Put your back to the back of the chair. Put your feet on the floor. And if you can, take off your shoes. Try to relax. And while trying to feel relaxed, I want you to tense your muscles, tense the muscles in your hands, tense the muscles at your elbows, just to release some tension. Roll your head on your neck, release some tension. You can chew and relax and relax. And then tense your muscles in the legs and relax them as well. But if you are sitting in a very comfortable place, ensure that your feet are flat on the floor. The next thing I would like you to do is to please close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, I want you to bring attention to your breath. I want you to notice when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Notice when you breathe in. Try to limit every distraction now, except, of course, you're driving or handling every machinery. Breathe in and breathe out. I'd like everyone under the sound of my voice to breathe in, hold your breath, and breathe out. Breathe in again, hold your breath, and breathe out. Breathe in again, hold your breath, and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nostrils. Hold it. And breathe out through your mouth. The next thing I want you to do is to, with your mind's eye, go to a place of peace and tranquility. Wherever gives you peace and tranquility. Imagine that you are there right now. As you continue to breathe in, hold it, and let it out. With your mind's eyes, I want you to use your senses. Use your eyes to see the beauty in the environment where you are. You chose this environment of peace and tranquility, of quiet, of solitude. Look around and see the beauty. Look around and hear pleasurable sounds. Smell the beauty in the environment. Taste the beauty. We're using all of our senses, and this is a form of mindfulness breathing exercise. I want you to feel with your skin the beauty of that environment. As you continue to breathe in, hold it, and let it out. I want you to look around and look up and imagine that there's a cloud above your head. I don't want you to think of chemistry, physics, or biology, but I want you to jump on that cloud. Settle on the cloud and be relaxed on the cloud. Allow the cloud to rock you to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. As you continue to breathe in, hold it, and let it out. Continue to take in the beauty of that environment, taking it all in, not judging this moment and leaving every distraction behind. Continue to breathe in, hold it, let it out as you let this cloud rock you to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. Continue to breathe in, hold your breath, and let it out. I will start to count from 10. 10, still taking the beauty. 9, 8, 7, 6, stay on your cloud. 5, 4, let the cloud rock you back and forth, side to side. 3, 2, rock on the cloud. 1, and you can open your eyes now. Thank you very much for participating. I think that one thing that is interesting before I think Ezine should say it because in Ezine's place.
I almost slept off. Oh my God, this is so relaxing.
But I think that what's also more interesting is that your daughter came and was wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of mindfulness. He turned off her device and she came to say, what is this calm thing that people are doing? And so for those of us who have problems sleeping, who have children, sometimes you can be crying and all of that, mindfulness-based exercises can be very, very powerful. I'm tempted to ask us, where did you go to? Did anybody go to Imo State? Did you go to your village? Did anybody go to the beach? Where did you go? Thank you very much for the opportunity, Ezine.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This exercise is everything. I know about mindful breathing, but to sit and practice it is usually a problem. So this one I just practiced now. I almost slept off, to be honest. Thank you so much, Dr. Bonjibola. Guys, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Oh my God. Someone says at a point I was smiling. This I needed this experience right now. I don't know about others. I don't know about you guys. I needed it more because I feel so relaxed. I did not have been tensed all along. All the stretching, I really needed it. So if you have any questions, please ask in the next 3 minutes, okay? Because the next speaker is almost here. Do you have any question? Paul said he went to a river with blue water forest around like in adventurous movies.
Nice.
I actually went to a place that is like green pasture, like I was sitting on the grass and there was water in front of me.
Nice. Nice.
So while we are waiting for questions, can you tell us how we can contact you in case we need more?
Who knows? All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening and for positive reviews. Hello, darling. How are you? So, somebody said I went to Mykonos in Greece. I mean, I want to go to what's that place in Greece? I want to go to Greece too. Santorini.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I'm on my social media platforms. On social media, I'm my name, Dr. Bonjibola Abiri, on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well as Dr. Bonjibola Babalola Abiri. But by the time you Google my name, you'd find me there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's a question here. How do we consciously take out wrong thoughts while practicing 4-7-8 breathing technique?
All right. Thank you very much, Paul, for your question. And I dare say that when you are doing mindfulness, nothing else matters. You are present in that moment at that point in time. You take away all forms of distraction. And so that moment, mindfulness is actually described as a conscious process where you are mindful of what is going on. You are not, so there's this analogy that we always give. Is your mind full or are you mindful? Is your mind full, MINDFULL, or are you mindful of what's going on? I'll give you an example. One day I was taking my son to school, and as we almost got to school, my son said, Mom, I was rushing. Oh, let's get there before 8. Let's get there before 8. And my son said, Mom, I said, yes. He said, look at that purple flower. He didn't notice that there was a flower. He noticed that it had a color. in the moment of mindfulness, you are non-judgmental. You are just present in that moment. Everything else can wait. And so when you then come out of your mindfulness breathing exercise, and I must say that, mindfulness is what physical exercise is to the physical body. Mindfulness is to the mind. The more we practice mindfulness every day, we can practice mindfulness in how we eat. So some of us just say, I just want to eat tuwo and ofe nsala, and you don't even look at the color, you don't look at the taste, you don't look at the texture. We can be mindful when we eat. We can be mindful when we wash plates. We can be mindful when we take a walk, as we pay attention. And so when you're done with your mindfulness exercise, you can come back to your thoughts. And so since you've said wrong thoughts or negative thoughts, we also need to start being intentional about the things we think about, how we think about them, how we respond to them, because negative thoughts will only bring about more negativity, not just about yourself or the situation, but people around you or even your life in general. And so mindfulness and negative thoughts are two different things. Pack your negative thoughts to one side, but also know that when you are done either with your exercise or in real life, you need to start working more on positive thoughts, positive affirmations, limiting the power of negative thoughts in your own life. Negative thoughts have been said to be one of the major things that we find in depression. The person who is depressed has negative thoughts about themselves, the world, and the future. As a man thinks, so is he. I'm not saying avoid, things that happen, but pack negative thoughts. The more you feed negative thoughts, the more they grow. Thank you. I can't hear you, Ezine. I don't know if it's only me.
I muted myself. Yeah. We can't take any more questions right now because of time. So if you want to ask more questions, just reach out to her on. Let me remove this so I can see her name. Like she mentioned, Google her, Dr. Bonjubola Adiri. Google her. She's on Instagram, LinkedIn. Just Google her. You get her contact to reach out to her. Okay. So if you have any questions, just reach out to her so that we can take more questions the next session. So guys, let's appreciate her. Let's appreciate. I want to see you in the comment section. Where are you clapping? I can't see anything. I can't see your appreciation. I can't see your claps. Because this is something you pay thousands for. I know what I'm telling you. You pay lots of money for her session. Yes. Show me those claps. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Bonjubola. I really appreciate you. Every one of us really appreciate you. Thank you for teaching us everything and for that breathing technique. Thank you. Really appreciate. Yeah. I see your comments. Keep them coming. God bless you. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we'll be moving to the next session right now. Are you still here with me? Is anyone tired? I'm sorry, we are not taking more questions. You can reach out to her to ask more questions, okay? Is anyone tired? Are you tired? Are you tired? Because I'm not. We're meant to have this session on school stress, but the speaker is not yet here. So we are going to take the last session as the third session now. So we are going to be taking, let me put up the banner. So we are going to be taking proving strategies and methods of managing post. Oh my God, I'm sorry about the noise. I'm sorry about the noise. Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. So we are going to be talking about proven strategies and methods of managing post-university stress by Mfreke Enefiok. Guys, You need this one, especially for those of you who are yet to get a job or oh the third speaker is here already. Mfreke, is it okay to wait? We have the two speakers at the background. Okay, let's stick to the schedule, the original schedule, okay? Okay, so we are going to be taking Navigating School Stress for All-Encompassing Excellence by Dr. John Bosco Chukwaji. If you've read his profile, you know that you should pay to sit under him right now. If you've read his profile, he's a senior lecturer in UNN with lots of published articles, as in a lot. Okay, so for this session, it's not just for those that are undergraduates. It's also for postgraduates. If you are in the process of learning, you need this session. I know that there was a time I had a training, 5 weeks training. It was like a school. I needed to know how to manage my stress in order to cope. So even if you find yourself in another environment where you have courses to take, you are still learning. So you are going to learn how to navigate school stress for all-encompassing excellence. Guys, let's welcome Dr. John Bosco Chukwaji. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ezinne. I believe you can hear me now.
Yes, very well. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing my thoughts on this important issue of navigating school stress for all-encompassing excellence. I am here this evening to share some of my experiences as a student in some ways and also a lecturer that works with students. At the end of my presentation, feel free to also share your thoughts and ask me questions. I don't know whether it's possible to share my slides, but if it's not working, I can proceed to that. So the outline of what we are going to be doing today is that we are going to look briefly at the meaning of stress. Then we look at what happens when people are stressed. And then the nature of stress by way of what are the various types of stress that people undergo when they are students. And then we go further to look at common sources of student stress. And then finally, we look at coping with this stress as an experience in the life of students. And finally, we conclude with the ways of managing stress. First, what is stress? To the lay person or the person that is on the street, when you mention the word stress, the person's mind goes to things like pressure, tension, unpleasant external forces, or an emotional response to situations that are often intense. But in psychology, technically, we look at stress in two ways. One is that stress can be a stimulus. And stress as a stimulus implies things that are outside that happens to trigger some forms of behavioral reactions from people. So, in other words, when you are bombarded with assignments by your teachers or by your lecturers in school, you often say that, oh, this lecturer is stressing me, or this lecturer is stressing us. Or such times when they schedule your examination and you rarely have time to revise before you write for or before you go for the next one, you often say, oh, this examination period is stressful. So such is the understanding of stress as a stimulus. The second way of understanding stress in psychology is stress as a response. And stress as a response is something that is subjective. Subjective implies that it is a feeling of an individual about a situation. So, for example, you can give an assignment to students, and some students feel that, oh, this is a very wonderful thing, this is a challenging situation, and they go ahead and see it in that way and they move along. But for some other people, they look at it that, oh, why does these people want to kill us? And so the feeling the person now has is that the person gets tense up, gets tensed up, gets agitated, and often may sometimes get irritated. So the response of the person to that situation is also regarded as a stress. But this is not all. Some individuals also look at stress in two ways. One is that stress that is negative and harmful and damaging, and often counterproductive. So in a situation where the student is complaining that the lecturers are bombarding them, that is a negative reaction. And so we refer to that as distress. The other side of stress is also what is regarded as eustress. And it is positive and beneficial. So it is helpful in the sense that without stress in life, people may often get into complacency and may be unable to achieve their goals. So, for example, I've been asked that I'm going to do this presentation, and it is my desire to give my best to the presentation. So I prepare for it, I make plans to leave some other things to be able to do it, because I know I'm going to make a contribution to humanity, to society. So I wouldn't be looking at it that, oh, even though it incites some physiological and behavioral reactions in me and behavioral changes in me, it still does not mean that, oh, this thing is killing me. It is rather helping me grow. So that what that is called is eustress. So the positive aspect of the stress, which is helpful to the individual and to the society, is called eustress, while the negative aspect that is harmful, detrimental, damaging, and counterproductive is distress. The general definition of stress in psychology is tied to the understanding of stress from the perspective of the person-environment fit. Person-environment fit is a core behavioral theory that talks about the idea of individuals being fitted to the environment to enable them to do well, to enable them to thrive and to survive. So applying this concept to our understanding of stress, the idea comes into picture when we look at the definition of stress by Arnold Lazarus. And so Arnold Lazarus, in his conceptualization of stress, sees stress as a transaction. A transaction is like a trade, an exchange. So when there are stressful situations, the individual comes with something to meet a situation. And so the two comes together. And when there is a fit between the two, when there is a match between the two, you always see a positive outcome. So what this implies is that in general, stress is determined by an individual's appraisal of an event, of a situation, like the way I have interpreted this presentation I'm to make, like the way a student sees the examination he or she is to write. So this individual looks at it and appraises it. The appraisal can be in the form of, for example, saying, is it stressful? Is this something that tries to instigate some arousal in me? And then when the individual sees that, oh, this is something that is challenging, this is something that is stressful, the individual, the other aspect of it is now, what is it that is in the individual that can match this particular situation? So the person now also, apart from appraising the situation, also appraises his or her personal resources. So what I'm going to ask myself, will I cope? For example, when I was asked to make this presentation, I asked myself, can I have the ability to make the presentation? So the individual, like the examination, can ask himself, can I write this exam? Can I prepare for it? Can I work towards passing this exam? So when you have appraised the situation and you know that you have the matching resources, to be able to face the situation. That is where a balance is created. So a good person environment fit results in no or low stress, and a poor fit between the environment and the person results in a high level of stress. When you want to look at stress in terms of how they occur, psychologists talk about stress from the angle of acute stress versus chronic stress. Acute stress is that stress that is so quick, so sudden, and often momentarily throws the individual off balance. So, for example, somebody has just been informed that there is an exam tomorrow, and the person may not have had the information. So the person is momentarily shaking. He or she is thrown off. The other aspect of it is what you call chronic stress. Chronic stress is everyday experiences that are stressful, but often they leave the individual feeling drained. So, like for example, of an acute stress is a situation where the location of a student's school is far from his or her home. So you need to maybe sometimes wake up by 5 a.m., prepare, and if you have to get to school on time, it means you should have left your home latest by 5:30 a.m. So you'll be on the road for like 1 hour or 2 hours before you get to your school, and then you get settled and start doing things. And when going home, you also spend that length of time. The long journey of this stressful is inherently stressful, and it is something that the students will have to continue doing for a longer period of time. So it is a chronic stress, and it is this chronic stress that often leads to burnout. Burnout is a situation where an individual feels that he or she is not achieving up to his or her potential, and often the individual feels emotionally worn out. And most situations, most times, the individual's behavior towards other people is negative in the sense that the person now sees other people as tools to be used in achieving his or her goals. So when this occurs, we say that the individual is feeling burnt out. But apart from acute stress and chronic stress, stress can also have its emotional dimensions. Emotional dimensions of stress are things that has to do with feelings of people. And you see emotional stress in situations of relationships. For example, someone that is having a conflict with his or her boyfriends, or with his or her lecturer, or with his or her parents. The stress that is attendant to this type of conflict is regarded as emotional stress. How do we respond or react to stress? Or to put it more clearly, what are the effects of stress on us as human beings? Generally, stress can affect us physically and psychologically. The physical effects of stress occurs in the sense that most times when you are stressed, you notice that you may have some psychophysiological effects like increased heart rate. You may also sweat more, and sometimes you may experience some forms of shaking of your hands, your legs, or other parts of your body. And headaches too are also symptoms of an person that is undergoing stress. And then there are also changes in how an individual breathes when you are under stress. But on the other hand, an individual that is stressed also feels low energy, may experience nausea, insomnia, chest pains. So there are cardiovascular effects of stress that are associated with the heart, and you feel it in form of pains in your heart. On the psychological level, the effects of stress can be emotional, behavioral, or cognitive. The emotional effects of stress occurs in terms of how you relate with people. For example, somebody becomes highly hostile, agitated, and attacks people unnecessarily. Some people also become highly irritable. Little things that people do makes them get angry. And then other mood changes like anxiety and depression can occur. when people are feeling stress. And then feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and loneliness are all emotional effects of stress. On the behavioral aspect, people may experience appetite disturbance. That is, for example, if I was able to, I noticed that I have been able to finish a plate of food. When I get stressed, I may notice that I lose appetite to eat my food. And so you may just take a few spoons of food and that is enough. But on the other hand, some people may eat more when they are undergoing stress. So someone that one plate of food is able to meet his or her needs now takes two to be able to get satisfied. Drugs or alcohol misuse are also very frequent behavioral effects of stress. So this individual begins to drink alcohol and other drugs unusually and in larger quantities to be able to relieve the symptoms. And then for people who are in sexual relationships, these individuals may notice that they, instead of, like, for example, someone may be used to having sex for 3 times a week or 4 times a week. This individual notices that maybe for 1 week the person doesn't feel like having sex. And also, in terms of sleep, the person may also notice that he or she sleeps more or sleeps less. When this happens, there are behavioral reactions to stress. Then, on the cognitive perspective, stress affects issues or aspects related to thinking. So, this individual cognitively may notice some negative downturns, like memory loss, loss of concentration, and negative outlook in life. The person begins to have that sense that, oh, things may not turn out well or work out well for him or her. But one thing that we also noticed, especially that is more prevalent in developed societies, is dissociation. So this dissociation occurs in forms of an individual's disconnection from his or her feelings, his or her thoughts, and his or her identity, because the individual have experienced a disorientation as a reaction to a stressful situation in his or her life. But before we end this discussion on the consequences of stress, it is important for us to look at this issue of the fight or flight reactions. When individuals, let me illustrate this with this particular example. If you throw a toad into a well, and the well is such a place where the toad feels so uncomfortable and wouldn't want to live there, the toad tries to struggle to wriggle himself or herself, to wriggle itself out of that particular environment. So while that toad is doing that, the toad is assumed to be fighting the situation. On the other hand, when the toad has fought for a while and notices that his or her action is unable to save him or her, the toad may try to get away from that situation. That is what is called flight. So as human beings, when we meet challenging situations, we don't just look at it and say we can't do nothing. We try to make effort as human beings to be able to challenge the situation and show it that we can handle it. But if we are unable to do much in handling it, we tend to make effort to withdraw, to get away from the situation. That is what is called flying away from the situation. That is flight. So, but in general, the key thing, emphasis in talking about all these consequences of stress is that we want to emphasize that a little of stress is good for us as human beings, but too much of a good thing can also be harmful, can be detrimental, and can be counterproductive. So that too much of a good thing, when it occurs, leads to, in the life of a student, a lot of several consequences. And some of these consequences can occur by way of the individual developing illness. For example, I mentioned the issue of changes in heart rate, like cardiovascular illnesses like hypertension. They can occur because an individual is stressed. Then we can also have a situation whereby this individual that is stressed feels disengaged from his or her academic work. Academic engagement is a key issue for success in academic venture. So an individual that a student that is academically engaged feels highly dedicated to his or her work, and then also feels a higher level of commitment and is vigorous in engaging in his or her academic work. When an individual is stressed, this does not happen. So such a person is said to be academically disengaged. And academic disengagement is a prelude to failure in examinations, failure in academic achievement. But more importantly is that these stressful situations that students experience can also lead to mental illness. In our society in Nigeria, we often hear of students that have committed suicide, both in secondary schools and in the universities. These students commit suicide, and if you look at some of the notes they drop, like the ones that happened recently in my university, the individual was writing something like, "It's time to end the controversy." So controversy means there is a conflict in his or her life, and the way to end the conflict the person felt was to commit suicide. What are some of the situations that are almost always stressful in the life of a student? By this, I want to talk about the causes of stress, or you can say sources of stress. Finances definitely are important. A typical student needs money to be in school. If you come from a poor home, or even if you come from a rich home, but your money is barely enough for you, you are bound to be stressed. For example, you may need to buy a textbook and there is no money for it. Sometimes it goes down to the point that you may not even have money to make photocopies of your handout or other materials you may be given. Or you don't have a laptop and you finish writing your term paper or assignments and you don't have money to type it. This is a source of stress. Then 2 is that students leave their homes to go to universities, to go to boarding schools in secondary schools. And so they often encounter homesickness due to that detachment from their secure environment in the home. This is inherently stressful to most students. And then for students that are in the university, some of them may not have had the opportunity of leaving their homes or not being in the same roof with their parents. And they found themselves in the university and they have to be independent and live their lives. When in the past, when they have their parents, this wasn't the situation. When they have their parents around them, this wasn't the situation. Then the experience of living among strangers for students that live in the hostels is also a very big stress. These are people you don't know and they do not know you. And for some students who are very shy, they found it difficult to easily get to bond and blend with the strangers they have encountered. This is problematic. And cohabiting with roommates is a big issue. When you have, like, for example, in my own university, where for the girls, you have 3 girls living in the same room. For some of these girls, the other roommates may not have been the type of people that shared rooms with people. And so they tend to be disorganized and do things without being considerate of their roommates. It's certainly going to be stressful to people. And above all is that the idea of what we as lecturers give you as students can also be considered stress. I may have given an assignment last week and I told you you are going to submit it in 2 weeks' time. Then I finished the lecture and gave another assignment today and told you you will submit it in the next 2 weeks. or even submit it next week. When you've not submitted the one I gave you last week, you've not even written it. And maybe this is coming, these assignments are coming 2 weeks to your exams period. Students find this to be stressful too. And students as human beings are members of families. So in their families, there are problems. For example, quarrels between siblings, quarrels between their parents, and maybe sometimes even leading to the level of divorce or separation. Or students that may have lost a loved one back home. This is stressful to students. In our situation of Nigeria, I remember having contracted a student who is in a polytechnic, but he does technical works, and I asked him to take charge of doing some electrical installations for me. He has to combine this electrical work with his academic work as a student in school. And it is through this electrical work he does that he is able to pay his school fees and finance his education. So being able to balance this work and his academic is a source of stress. And a lot of people are like that, where they have to do work in order to support themselves in school. Students as social beings also have social obligations. Social obligation includes that, oh, there may be a picnic to attend, and you need to pay to attend this picnic. Sometimes you may not have money. Or that the picnic is falling into a time when you may have exam the next day. Sometimes too, as students, we as human beings need to also join associations, maybe your Orapo or maybe other groups. This takes your time, and people find it stressful. So some students, when they're in the university, tell you, I don't have time for Orapo, because they do not want the stress that comes with it. And then apart from that, finally, is that students also, as young adults, explore romance and dating relationships. These romantic relationships and the other experiences that come with it also constitute some stress, especially when the relationship is not going well. So when the relationship is not going well, it affects other things in the life of the student. So if these situations are occurring in the life of a student, what can the student do? One is that as a student, it is important for you to get enough sleep. What is enough sleep? Enough sleep implies that you get a sleep that enables you to function well during the day. For some people, they can sleep for 6 hours a night and they are fine and they walk through the day without wants. For some other people, it must be up to 8 hours. For some other people, it must be up to 10 hours. So enough sleep is something that we cannot say is cast in stone. But what is usually given in science, in the science of sleep, called somnology, is that you must sleep for at least 8 hours a day. So if you sleep for 4 hours and you are fine, nobody quarrels with you. If you sleep for 6 hours and you're fine, nobody quarrels with you. I know a brother of mine that was a medical student in UNED that had a mat that he keeps around the office of one of the lecturers in UNEC, in University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. And he sleeps for practically 4 hours or 3 hours a night. And that was how he made it through medical school. He is fine and he's doing so well. And he's on his road to becoming a consultant. And he hasn't complained of any negative effects. But if you, as a person, notice that you sleep for 4 hours and you enter into trouble, please do not sleep for 4 hours. Take it up to a level that makes you able to live and function. Then you also need to eat well as a student. Most boarding schools, for those who are in secondary schools, are able to give their students balanced diet. I can, at least for the one where I went to, they did. For some other people, it may not work, but for such places, I think they're able to allow students to come with their provisions and other groceries where they are able to use to supplement their feeding. You cannot, as a student, be able to attain excellence and achieve excellence if you don't eat well. But eating well does not mean that you eat expensive. It means eating the right things. And often, the right things that makes us live, that makes us function well as human beings are cheap and they are readily available. All works and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So maybe it makes Jane a dull girl, to be gender sensitive. As a student, you should make time for leisure activities. Play, get to play around, get to chat, get to attend movies, get to go to clubs if you can. It doesn't kill you. And also make that time to go to the stadium or to other places where you can engage in some forms of physical exercise. Physical exercise is good for our health and well-being and is a very big reliever of stress. As students, one of the things that we do that makes us get stressed is that we do not know time management. So you've been given an assignment and you were told you have to submit the assignment by, for example, Tuesday next week. And you are waiting until it is Monday before you start doing the assignment. What if something happens and takes you away and you are unable to do the assignment on Tuesday night? So by Wednesday morning, you are having lectures and you are in your lecture and you are writing the assignment. Or you may be unable to even do it depending on some of the lectures you may have. But if you planned yourself and organized your work and you have been able to put this particular important part of your academic work into consideration, you have 7 days to plan for it and do it before it becomes very urgent. So in most situations, time management works this way. There are things we do in life that are important, but they are not urgent. There are also things we do in life that are not important and they are not urgent. And then there are things we do in life that are important and they are urgent. So most situations where we excel as students is we will learn to face important things that are also urgent and tackle them, take care of them, and then let them go. Students often make this mistake of relying on stimulants, like I have exams tomorrow and then I feel I need to be awake to read. And so to be awake to read, you go and rely on stimulants like coffee. You want to drink coffee to keep you awake. Well, these drugs have their side effects, and you may never know their effects until after some years. So as long as your body can carry you, do not rely on any external thing to keep you awake. So avoid the stimulants as much as possible. What should keep you awake as a student should be the motivation that you want to do well. If your motivation is not strong enough, then let your body get it what it needs. And you rest for a while, like 1 hour, 2 hours or so, and then you get up and begin to read. Instead of saying you want to stay asleep and then you get harmed physically, health-wise. Students also make this mistake of setting unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations imply that as a first-year student, you told yourself, okay, I want to be able to make 5.0. It is something fine, it is nice. But you should be able to know your situation, and then, like what I was telling you about being able to find a fit between the person and the environment, appraise the situation, appraise your resources. So you should be able to check whether your resources, in terms of what is within you and around you as a human being, is able to equal to the task of meeting this demand of having 5.0. If you notice that this is not achievable, why not go for 2.1? This is still an excellent grade. And you graduate and you achieve all your goals, rather than saying you want to make first class and in the end you get burnt out. The other thing as students that we need to do is positive self-talk. Like as Napoleon Hill will say, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So tell yourself positive words. Tell yourself that you can. And often you can if you think you can. Like somebody will say that the word can is when you've kicked off the word not. So it gives you that positive affirmation that you can do it, that you can make it happen. Students must also learn relaxation techniques. Relaxation techniques implies things like as when we are in primary school and we are growing up and secondary schools, teachers often walk into the class and they tell you to do breathe in, breathe out. We do not know the magic that this does for us, but this is something that has been proven by science to be able to help you when you are undergoing stress. Just get into a quiet place, sit down on a chair if you can't lie down, and then breathe in and then breathe out slowly and do it for like 5 minutes. Within that period of time, you will notice some changes because the physiology affects the psychology and the psychology affects the physiology. So if you are able to keep the physiology in tune, the psychology becomes perfect, becomes good. And then I listened briefly to the last presenter and she was talking about mindfulness meditation. Please do it. It is a very big stress reliever. More importantly is that no man is an island. Students get stressed when they are unable to reach out to those that can help them. Often, I encounter students that make mistakes where they should have just been able to put a phone call through or send an email or come to the office and ask questions that would have saved them from such situations. And apart from that too is that while I was an undergraduate student, I noticed that there are students that wouldn't have been able to make it through school if not the fact that I was in the same class with them. These are their confessions in recent times. So that's why I'm even mentioning it. But I didn't just go out on my way to begin to seek for them, to help them, to support them, to teach them. They came, they asked, they showed me they needed help, and I helped them. There are students in your class that are willing and ready to support you and give you the necessary academic support you need to be able to excel in school. Find them. Some people may not be willing to do it, I know, but there are still a few that will be ready to help you and support you to be able to achieve your goal as a student. And some of these are your fellow students. Some of these may be your lecturers. If you go to one and the person says no, find the next person. And then, more importantly, apart from social support, is also that when you handle the stress and you notice you can't cope, you can't do it alone, please find a counselor, find a psychologist. Go to them and talk to them, talk with them. A lot of institutions have their counseling units and maybe students affairs unit and other things that are supposed to be able to provide these services to students. They are there in every institution as far as I know. Ask questions, you are going to find. If it is not in your own institution, for an institution like ours in the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, we have the Psychological Services Center where we have a dedicated psychologist that is paid to do the job of helping students to cope with their stress. So you reach out and then we thank God that technology have made things easy. So you do not need to be in Nsukka for them to be able to assist you and support you. We can give virtual services or virtual therapy. For my final thoughts, I think it is important for us as students to keep looking for the tools that will help us manage life's inevitable ups and downs in a healthy way. The ups and downs of life are part of being human. So we have to make effort to find the right stress relief strategy that meets our needs. Sometimes they may involve trial and error. So find what works for you and then stick to it, and you are going to excel. But like in everything and in most situations, it takes two or more to tango. I have mentioned a lot of strategies you may use. You do not need to just stick to one. A combination of two or more of these, or even all of those ones, may be the secret to your achieving your goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. John Bosco. Thank you. This is a very, very important session because I remember when I was in medical school, almost every day, I experienced headache, especially towards afternoon periods. So I would always experience headache, and in addition to that, I'll be feeling sleepy during classes. Why? Because I was trying to do reading till daybreak, and then I'll be struggling to sleep at night, struggling to read. I read, you won't sleep, you won't. Then during the daytime, I'll carry it over and I'll be sleeping like a fool during the daytime. So if only somebody knew about these things while in school, it would have really helped me to maximize my school stay, my school period, without the headaches I was experiencing. It was every day. I wish I knew all these things then. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any question, please feel free to ask, and let's also appreciate him. And you mentioned about a psychology service in Southeast. Is there any way that we can reach the service, their online presence, so that anybody can reach them? We can't hear you. Unmute your mic, please.
Yes, for instance, where I work, which is the Department of Psychology, University of Nigeria in Soka, the Psychological Services Center have dedicated phone lines, which I'm going to type into the chat box so
Okay.
people can access it and reach out when they need to. Apart from that, too, is that we also have the Nigerian Mental Health Alliance, which are which is dedicated to mental health. And also, we also have some other NGOs like Let's Talk Health. I personally like Let's Talk Health because these are a group of medical students that are still in medical school that noticed the mental health gap in Nigeria. And they felt that they can't just keep quiet. And what they did was that they reached out to some psychologists, and they are now working as a team. And as a team, when you reach out to them, they refer you to the psychologist and you get services. So you can, for Let's Talk Health, you can Google it and get their contact. And even the Nigerian Mental Health Alliance, they're also there. But for the Psychological Services Center in University of Nigeria, so I'm going to send the dedicated phone number where you can call if you need assistance and support. You are going to be helped.
Okay, thank you so much. This is really important because all these cases of students committing suicide, it's not funny. Thank you so much. And someone have a question. How do parents help their children reduce distress? Is this for Dr. John Bosco or for Dr. Vivian? Because she talked about this in her session. If you have any question, please ask because he just have like, let me say, like 2 minutes because the next speaker is already here. While we are at it, let's appreciate Dr. John Bosco. Yeah, thank you. Okay. We have the number, so I'll be sharing it right now. Guys, please, let's note this number, okay? Let's note this number for the psychology services. And then I'm putting up the second one. Please, if you need help, just call this number, okay? You don't have to die in silence. And I'm sure that you meet a lot of your friends who complain about stress, who complain about feeling sad, being moody all the time, feeling depressed. You don't have to be silent. Even if you don't know what to do, refer them, okay? Refer them. Let them call these numbers. You don't have to be there physically to get help. All right? Okay, no other question. All right, no other questions. So thank you so much, Dr. John Bosco, for this session. Thank you, because this is really, really helpful at this time. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Let me briefly just make a few comments about the question that has about how parents can help their children relieve stress.
Okay, fine.
Children, the most important way that parents can help their children to reduce stress is to model stress management techniques and behavior. Most often, children learn more. If as a parent you are able to manage stress well and you are able to achieve your goals and get going, the child learns from it when he or she is with you. So this is one critical way of achieving it. But more importantly too is that as a parent, learn to set realistic goals for your children. Most of the stress children experience or students experience is because of their overbearing expectations of their parents. So as a parent, you learn to be able to know your child's ability and then set goals for him or her within that ability, instead of expecting him or her to be able to get to a certain point that may end up making him or her get broken. So that is really a second point that parents must take note of. Thank you.
Thank you. So in essence, if you want your child to learn how to manage stress, that means you must be the first teacher. You must first know about managing stress to model it to your child. Thank you so much. Well noted. Thank you. All right. So guys, we'll be moving to the next session. And before that, I think we need a break. Is there anyone else that need a break? If you need a break, let me know. If not, we'll continue and fire on because the next speaker is already here. That's the last speaker for the day. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Do you need a break? Like 2 minutes break, you want to stretch? You can have some music. Oh, I need to stretch. Are you guys still here? Enjoy the music while I get your comments whether you need a break or not. If you want to ease yourself, you can go and ease yourself. Okay, let's go and break. I can't see your comments. I can't see your comments. Should we fire on or you want to go on a break? I'm recommending the break. Yeah. Okay. So 2 minutes break will be fine. The short break will do. Richard Anekwe. Korede, can I get a link to the music playing? It comes with the streaming platform. I don't know how the music came about. So it's part of the streaming platform. Ngozi Odocha, I see you. Let's stretch for 5 minutes. Yeah, Ruth, a break will do. Okay, so we'll be back by 6. This is 6:39, so we'll be back by 6:43. I know it's an odd number, so enjoy the music. I will come back. So you can go and ease yourself. Invite more people for the last session. This is what we are going to be having soon. We are almost back. Are you enjoying the summit so far? We have 1 minute more. Where are you? Come back, come back, come back. Are you enjoying the summit? Are you learning? Are you learning from this summit? Are you learning anything at all? Let me see. Paulo Yewusi, I see you. Yes. Korede Royals, seriously learning a lot. I see you. Yeah, let's keep the comments coming. Just before the next speaker will turn up, she's here already. She's already at the background, so we're going to be bringing her in right now. Ngozi Odocha, I see you. Yes, very much. Okay. Ibiyemi, Oduyemi, yes. Yes, the video will still be here on the YouTube platform, so you can access it anytime, all right? It will still be here for you. Okay, so we are going to be bringing in the next speaker, Mfreke Ufreke Ekere Enefio. So she's coming to be teaching us how to manage post-university stress, navigating proven strategies and methods of managing post-university stress. Whether you've graduated, whether you're looking for a job, whether you are just acquiring skills. In fact, you know that season of life, that season that can make you question your life, question your existence. That is what she's coming to teach us today, how to cope during that season so that you don't get overwhelmed or depressed, because such seasons can be really, really tough. So we are going to be welcoming Ufreke Ekere Enefio. She's also a stress management coach and the CEO of Cypress Global Health. You are welcome, ma'am. You are welcome. Good to have you. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ezine. Hi, everyone. Greetings from Nigeria. I'm Ufreke Ekere Enefio. I feel privileged to be here. I'm excited already. I want to also thank the previous speakers, Dr. Vivian, Dr. Abiri, and Dr. John Bosco. It was interesting listening to all of you. So today we'll be looking at proven strategies and methods of managing post-university stress. Please, Dr. Ezine, can you share my slides? Okay. Okay, so without wasting our time, let's proceed. So what is stress? Stress is a response to a stressor. It could be environmental, it could be occupational, or it could be social. It is an unpleasant feeling that one experiences when one perceives that something one values has been lost or is threatened. So this loss or threat could be something material, that's a house, it could be social, which is a relationship, it could be symbolic, that's a threat to one's status as a provider, or it could even be economic in terms of job insecurity. So we feel stress when we perceive that we do not have enough resources or coping skills to cope with a perceived threat or loss. So if you have enough resources, if you have developed coping skills, you will not be feeling stressed like someone that doesn't have enough resources or skills. So that's just basically what stress is. Now, we also have stressors. Stressors are just stress-inducing situations or conditions. So anything that induces stress in us and is known as a stressor. And then we have steps in managing stress. So for you to be able to manage stress, you need to understand that stress is caused by stressors. And like I said earlier, stressors can come from the environment, can come from diverse situations. So understanding that your stress is caused by a stressor is very important because we have different techniques for managing stress. So if you apply the right techniques to the wrong stressor, it's not going to work out for you. So you have to be able to understand the stress that is the stressor that is causing you stress, and then you have to be able to know the particular technique that works for that stressor. Next slide, please. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at managing post-university stress. So for a student to get admission and get into the university, there are expectations from that student has. So students have this expectation of at the end of the university, they are looking out to have a very good life. You know, they are looking out to secure the future, and they are looking out to gain knowledge for growth and advancement. They also want to gain recognition and respect. and as well move from one level to the next. So these are the expectations students have when they enroll in the university. So post-university stress comes when these expectations are not met. So if at the end of your university experience, you're not able to have the good life you're looking out for, you're not able to secure your future as you had wanted, you're not able to advance as you had expected, and move from the level you were before you entered the university to the next level, then you're going to likely experience post-university stress. So there are types of academic stress, like Dr. John Bosco told us. So some of it includes academic frustrations. So this could arise from assignment or coursework deadlines, your inability to meet deadlines, your inability to write your exams well, and your conflict that comes in the academic experience, which could be from friendship and relationship. So this relationship could be student to student relationships. It could also be student to lecturer relationships. So if you have conflict in your relationship with your lecturer or a fellow student, you will be experiencing stress. And this stress sometimes even spill into post-university period. So we also have academic anxieties, and this one is basically caused by inability to meet up the financial obligations of being in school. So if you're unable to pay your fees, this could lead to anxiety, and then that can constitute a whole lot of stress for students. We also have pressures from trying to balance your studies and life. So don't forget, students have life outside the university campus. So when you come out from the university environment, life is still waiting out there for you. You have family to your family waiting. You have other expectations from people. So your ability to manage both your life in school and outside of school can reduce stress. So we also let's look at what constitutes post-university stress. So basically, lack of employment constitutes post-university stress. Lack of funds to start a business. It's not every student that is looking out to work for somebody. Some just go in there to gain the knowledge so they can put it into their business. So but if you don't have funds to start a business at the end of your university experience, then you may be experiencing stress. So lack of access to information and networks aimed at career growth can also constitute post-university stress. And also poor socio-economic environment can also constitute post-university stress. For example, in Nigeria, we don't really have structured systems that are targeted at career progress and growth. So these constitute a lot of stress for the student when they leave the university. So our environment can also cause a lot of stress to us at the end of the university experience. We also have inability to measure up with one's contemporaries. So at the end of the university experience, you see some students immediately just get a job. Some of your colleagues maybe they start up a business, some are getting married, some are building their houses, some are driving their cars. So any of the student that is not able to measure up with his or her contemporaries can be experiencing post-university stress. So if you're measuring your life with that of others, your contemporaries, you might be experiencing post-university stress. So there are proven strategies that can help us to overcome this post-university stress. So the first is that you need to understand that life is a journey. So you need to pause and be grateful that you have finished your university. So it's not everybody that has that opportunity to go through the university education. So if if you've been able to achieve that, you should pause and be grateful. So life is a journey. You've come to this stage in your life. You should pause and be grateful. You should be grateful. So, and secondly, visualize the potential that the future holds for you. So you need to carry out a goal, let's say a goal visualization, where you pause and then you begin to think about the future that you want for yourself. You begin to draw a mental imagery of the future that you want to go into, as in your expectations. So adopting an optimistic outlook when one door closes is very essential. So the fact that a door has closed for you should tell you that a new door is about to open. So whether the door has opened immediately or is going to open in the future, that does not really matter at that point. What matters is that you are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that as you're leaving the university, whether it's immediately or later, you're going to be able to move into a new level. Thirdly, identify your values. Now, what are values? Values are those principles or standards that are important to us. So once you understand your value, you'll be able to know that, okay, the fact that your contemporaries are moving swiftly doesn't mean that you're not also progressing, you know. So what you value will help you assess yourself. So if you value, let's say, financial independence, even if you're not able to get a job at that point in time, you will know that, okay, you're going to work towards ensuring that you gain the financial independence you want, which is one of your values. So identify your value and use it to build resilience. Now, what is resilience? Resilience is your ability to bounce back after a setback. So you could use faith, you could use continuous improvement. You need to seek out opportunities that will improve your chances of being employed. And then you need to identify with a cause, that you can volunteer for a cause, whether it is paid volunteering or unpaid volunteering. So your ability to identify your values, build resilience, can help you to overcome post-university stress. And then number 4 is that always know that the end of something is also the beginning of something new. I've said this already. So as a door is closing on you, know that another door is about to open for you. Now, develop your social skills and join multiple networks targeted at career and business growth. So if I had somebody telling me this when I was in the university, I believe that my growth would have been more rapid than what it is. So it took me a long time to realize the importance of building social relationship to be able to advance my career. So while you're still in school, or if you are done with school, develop your social skills, join multiple networks, you know, whether it's related to what you want or what you don't, just join for joining's sake. And then believe that by joining those networks, it will lead you to something you're looking out for. Because sometimes the people that are going to help you might not actually be the ones you were expecting. So help can come from any of these networks. Now, develop a resilience plan. I've said already that resilience is your ability to bounce back after a setback. So we'll be able to, at the end of this summit, we should be able to develop a resilience plan. Then create a map of hope that will help you to unlock your motivation and energy of hope. So whether it's you're going to use a journal to write, a notebook, or you're going to just use create it digitally, just create a map of where you are currently and where you are hoping to be, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So create a map of where you're going to, and also find silver linings in the sky above you. So you need to change your outlook on the negative situation or experience by looking at the bright side of life. So if all of your expectation at the end of the university is not what it is right now, you should be able to have a positive outlook that strength can come from a negative situation, you know. Extract strength from problems. View problems from a positive strength perspective. Like the previous speaker said, you don't have a negative outlook all the time. So learn to extract strength from problems, from negative situations that surrounds you. Increase your awareness of and confidence in your ability to create situations for yourself. You need to build confidence. If you don't have the confidence, even when opportunity knocks at your door, you're not going to be able to grab the opportunity because you don't have belief in yourself to deliver. So increase your awareness and increase your confidence in your ability to create solutions for yourself. Don't forget, in today's world, you're only paid for solutions. You're only paid for bringing solutions to problems. So once you have that mindset, you're out there looking at problems that we have in the society, and then you're brainstorming how you can creatively solve these problems. Once you are able to have that understanding, it will be easy for you to now build confidence. And when opportunity knocks at your door, you'll be able to grab them. Understand the possible benefits of challenging life events. So some event just happen, and then if you don't look at it critically, you think that they are all negative. You will not be seeing the positive in that event. So try to understand that even in negative life events, positive benefits can come out of it. So adopt a growth mindset and be aware of factors that are within and beyond your personal control. So if you have a stagnant mindset, you're not going to be able to grow. But if you have a good mindset, you'll be able to move forward. So the result of me trying to find a way to cope with stress made me to be able to write my book, Managing Stress, The Pathway to Building a Healthy Relationship and Family. So if I was not able to find a way out of the situation I found myself after university, I will not be here today, because I remember vividly I had my papers they were very okay. I was aiming for a 2-1, which I had, and after that I did some work which was volunteering, but because I didn't get what I expected, I had to go back to school and get a master's in public health. So even after the master's, I still didn't get what I expected, but I didn't give up on myself. I still pushed forward, to be able to get what I actually want. And then I was able to start up my company, that's Cypress Global Health. So within that negative environment, within the negative things that are happening after university, you can create something positive. So if I had just come out of the university, gotten a lucrative job, I would not be thinking of starting my company. Even if I would want to start a company, it will not be immediate, So those are the things to look out for. So let's move on to developing a resilience plan. Don't forget, I said resilience is your ability to bounce back after a setback. So resilience is the process of capacity for or outcome of successful adaptation despite challenging circumstances. So resilience is your ability to be able to cope, with whatever life throws at you, and you then bounce back stronger and more steadfast than before. So that's just what resilience is. Now, a research carried out by Abiola and Odofia shows that resilience is associated with inner strength, competence, optimism, flexibility, and the ability to cope effectively when you're faced with adversity, and also minimize the impact of risks through factors such as optimism, social support, and active coping. It will help you increase your ability to deal with life challenges. So if you're able to build your resilience, nothing surprises you, you will be able to cope more with stress and overcome. So now let's look at steps in building a resilience plan. If you get nothing out of this session, just be able to build a resilience plan at the end of today's session. So identify your past resources of resilience. Now think about a recent challenge you overcame or a setback in your life. How did you come out of that challenge? So identify your past sources of resilience. Identifying these past sources of resilience can help you to cope with post-university stress, how you were able to come out of it. Identify supportive people. Now you can even write down those people you normally call for support. While in the university, you had people you were calling for support. Could be your parent, could be your siblings, could be friends or colleagues. Identify those supportive people. They could be the people to help you even after the university. Identify strategies that you use to cope in difficult situations. What strategies did you use while in the university to be able to pass your exam, to be able to cope with the university stress? Those strategies can even help you in the post-university stress. Identify sagacity. Now, this is the wisdom and insight that you hold on to. This is what you believe, no matter what anybody says, you hold on to this wisdom. Also identify that. Identify your solution-seeking behaviors. How do you seek a solution? Do you look out for new information? Do you ask for help? Identify your solution-seeking behaviors. Now, apply this resilience plan to your current post-university stress. Apply it in the current situation you're facing. Now, you can put this resilience plan into action. That's after you've identified these resources, you can actually put this plan into action. Which of these resources is most feasible for you to start right now? So what is the smallest step that you can take right now? Is it to call those supportive people? Is it to go for a talk therapy? Is it to meet a counselor? Is it to meet that your friend or colleague that is always very supportive? Is it to meet your mentor? So put your plan into action. Evaluate your resilience plan. It's always good to have an accountability partner. An accountability partner is there to help you move forward. So the person is there to ensure that you're not stagnated. Is there to push you to do those things that you're supposed to be doing that can help you eliminate post-university stress. So at the end of building your resilience plan, you should be able to answer this question. How was it for you to carry out your resilience plan? Did it help you to bounce back from difficulties? So after you've developed this plan, has it helped you to bounce back from post-university stress? What resources, be specific when you're listing the resources, what resources, could it be skills, could it be support, strategies, did you use that were helpful to you, and why were they helpful? So you state it out clearly. Now, did you use any of these resources? If so, why did you use it? Why did you use a particular strategy as opposed to another strategy? So is there anything you like to add to that resilience plan for future purposes? So also answer this question. In what areas of life could you use your resilience plan? Apart from post-university stress, there are other areas of life that you might want to apply developing a resilience plan. So this can help you to build resilience, develop a plan of action to move to the next level. So this brings us to the end of the session. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, you can ask.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that session. Thank you. When you were speaking, it reminded me of my own time, how you bettered your book during your own season. It reminded me of the opportunity I took in my own season. While we are still talking, guys, please, if you have any question, feel free to ask her. And okay, before I say what I want to say, how can we contact you after now?
Okay, I'm available on Instagram at Cypress Global Health. You can reach out to me through Instagram and also on Facebook.
Okay, just Cypress Global Health. I hope I got the spelling correctly. Double
Yes,
S.
yes, you're correct.
Okay. All right. So while we are waiting for questions, I was talking about how what she shared reminded me of my own story. I remember when I wanted to travel to UK for an exam. They denied me the visa, and that visa was more like I needed this to move forward. So if
Okay.
you guys deny me this visa, what do you want me to do next? you know. So when they denied the visa and my career, I had no idea what next was going to go on in my career. And coincidentally, just before the visa was denied, I got this insight about self-care, about understanding. Um, I didn't know there was something like stress management then, you know.
Okay.
So it was one time I was studying the scriptures. I came about one particular passage that talked about don't worry about tomorrow. You know, the thing hits me like, wow, like I've not come across it before. As in the realm, I was different this time around, and that was what
Yeah.
inspired me to stand out, looking about, talking about. Okay, don't worry. You don't have to worry about these things. You know,
Hmm.
so it
Yeah.
progressed into researching about stress. I now came across the word stress management. I was like, oh, there's actually something called stress management. And as I was reading further, there was this excitement, like, wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. I was so excited. And any little information I'll learn, I'll start teaching my husband. He was my first student. I'll just be teaching him. I'm sure he got tired of listening. So so I got this insight then before the visa was denied. So when the visa was
Okay.
denied, I from the little I've learned from the stress management thing, talking about try to see the positive side of things, because once I keep worrying about the negative sides, I realize that it never brings solutions, it never brings peace of mind. All right,
Yeah.
it only reduces your quality of life when you keep worrying persistently. So I started looking for opportunities, and then it's now occurred to me, this stress management thing you've been talking about, you've been learning about. Why don't you keep learning about it? And since you're excited to teach your husband, why don't you start teaching others? You know,
Okay. Yeah.
that's how we started. I took it up and started teaching. I started
Hmm.
teaching. From teaching, I've written a book, I've produced a course, I'm doing stress management summit. I'm still back to my career, which I've always wanted to, but the stress management is still my love, you know.
Yeah.
That's how
That's
if
interesting.
yeah, that's resilience. That's just what you were talking about. Your ability to bounce back. It doesn't mean that life doesn't happen to us. Life
Yeah.
happens. So long as you're existing, life will keep happening,
Exactly.
pushing you. You know,
Hmm.
it will not be like
Yeah.
you're fighting against resistance, but
Hmm.
the ability to bounce back when anytime life hits you and you bounce back, that's how quickly you are able to bounce back, you know.
Yes.
So this your session is really, really important, especially post university period.
Yes.
It's tough,
Yeah.
man. It can be tough. It can
Yes.
be tough.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Any more question? Any question? Any question? Uh, if you don't have any questions, let's appreciate her. Let's appreciate her because this is a very important session she shared right now. Yeah. God bless you too, Paul Oyewusi. Thank you, Ibiyemi Oduyemi. So let me see you guys in the comments. If you learned something from this session, let's see you guys in the comments. Is the only Paul that is in this summit? I'm kidding. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. So, Freke, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor, for having me.
It was
Thank you.
awesome having you. Thank you. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. And with that, we've come to the end of today's session, today's summit. So we are going to be looking at. Oh, people are still thinking, "Ah, awesome." So we are going to be going to. We'll be going to the next summit, which is tomorrow. That's day 2. Tomorrow is going to be panelist session. Let me explain. You're going to have 5 speakers at once, all right, discussing a topic, or rather discussing several questions. This is usually one of my best parts of the summit because that of last year was so interesting, so impactful. You know, when you have different heads combined, people are bringing their ideas, exchanging information, exchanging knowledge. And this time around, we are bringing people from Zimbabwe, Cameroon, and Nigeria, you know. So we are getting people from different parts of Africa to exchange ideas on how we can help people, others, manage their stress, even without being professional coaches. And you know that for you to help someone manage their stress, you should also know how to manage your stress. So just come. She invites people. You're going to get emails. Once you get the email, share and invite people, all right? Whether they've not registered or not, whether they registered or not, just share and invite them because tomorrow is going to be highly value packed. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss listening to these guys. I know the people that I signed up for this panel session. You don't want to miss listening to them. Trust me. I know how much you pay if you were to pay for it, but you know, it's the work of God. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for investing your time, your data to this very moment. 7:16 here in the UK, where I'm joining from, and it's also the same time in Nigeria. I don't know the time for those of us from East Africa. I think it's 1 or 2 hours ahead. So thank you guys so much, and see you tomorrow, the same time, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Hopefully, we'll be finishing. Also, come with your questions. Thank you. Love you all. Love you, love you, love you, love you. Yeah. Ngozi Odocha, I see you. Shekina Chaya, I see you. Adeze Ezema, I see you. Christian Chuku, I see you. Paul, I see you. All right. Regards to small mommy. Thank you, guys. Have a blessed evening.